Oh, yeah, you're looking at me. I'm looking back at you. It's your boy BC here on the Brian Campbell Experience, BCX. Let's do another bit of this here ramble bit. It's Campbell's Rambles, episode 7, right directly in your face hole. Long Island Luke, right on top of it, the main card minute. Thank you for joining me on time. Reggie Jackson is he's en route. I heard him up there. He's causing some issues. We'll see if he comes down. We'll see if we can get a rematch from that face bite that we had on Morning Combat a couple episodes ago. But hey, Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. Hope your team won the damn election, but we're good vibes only in these parts. So you could take your Trump and Gaza takes and give them to Uncle Luke on Thursday. I'm sure he's got a few recoiled responses for you, but happy to be back with you. Thanks so much, as always, for populating this here channel, with likes, with subscriptions. If you get down like that, it only takes a second. It's free, and it certainly helps your boy BC and all them algorithmic ways, if that makes any sense. Shout out to Mikey, who always has my back. Long Island Luke's got my back too. L&W, Tacoma, Roma. We're building a club here, a club of weird men, right? It's just like the United States in a lot of ways. So we're getting really excited here because it's Wednesday. It's 2 hours. Like Nas, all I need is one mic, and I will ramble for a bit, then take your questions, and then ramble for a lot of a bit, because that's what I do here every Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. But hey, the channel's making some moves. We got a really fun 20 questions with longtime boxing scribe Dan Rayfield, who's been sort of the face of this business over the last quarter century. Overjoyed to share that with you. If you haven't checked it out, please do. Dan has a plethora of great stories from over the years in my time being a colleague, a competitor, contemporary of him in so many ways. So it was fun to sit down. Also, just recorded and put in the bank for tomorrow. Inside the Box will be back with Rafe Boogs, your boy BC, as we look back, look ahead, have a little bit of fun there. A lot to get into because we do have a fun weekend of boxing coming up. And a reminder that Morning Combat's back Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Like it belongs, right? No more free Fridays. Let's get paid for this ish. BCLT back at it. We're going to set the stage for the weekend. Boots and Bam on DAZN. We're talking about box. How about the three Davis brothers headlining that Top Rank Norfolk card? We've got a UFC Fight Night card, which just took a hit. Unfortunately, I was set to interview Cody Garbrandt on Wednesday for this channel, and literally minutes before the interview got canceled, then ultimately he had to pull out of that co-main event against Miles John. So we'll see what happens. Already a very thin card on paper for sure. So we'll get into that Friday with Neil Magny and Carlos Prates in the main event. And oh, by the way, BC caught up with Neil Magny this week. Do you care? I hope you do, folks. Check it out this week ahead of that. By the way, if he wins on Saturday, a second place tie for most wins in UFC history, just 3 back from Jim Miller. I'm like, yo, Neil, you may have to fight Jim Miller for the wins record, right? He didn't really like that idea, but I get down. I get down in weird ways like that. So yeah, thank you for joining me right here. Rene de Ritter, by the way, back Saturday night on that UFC Fight Night card, making his UFC debut. And also, don't forget about I said Boots and Bam Saturday. I said Top Rank on Friday. I want to get that right. I keep getting the night wrong. Friday's also going to give us one championship on Prime Video, so it'd be interesting to check that out. 169. So a fun combat sports weekend between our live chats, between Morning Combat, between the main card minute. All right, this community of weirdness has you completely covered. So thank you so much as always, and continue pumping out some content here on the BCX. Hopefully some of it catches on. So, you can flick off a few of it, but hopefully a few of it catches on and you like where it's going. I'm definitely still in the feel out phase, right? Like a blind man at an orgy, just sort of like, it's at your shoulder, it's at your elbow. I always say it, but it's true. The content I think is going to be a slam dunk goes nowhere. And then we get some surprises. I mean, Long Island Luke and I did a little bit and the people took after it. So check it out what you want to check out. But thank you for supporting me in my endeavors here. And why don't we do it? Why don't we get into this chat? All right. I always start off with a few things on my mind, but hey, good vibes only. Okay. So let's enjoy ourselves. My first topic, for as much as I tried to talk y'all into what my MMA fan heart was telling me about how badly I want Islam versus Ilya, although it's not a necessary fight to make right now. Is it super necessary? No, I'm not setting up a Masvidal joke. How necessary is it for this fight? Something we talked about on Monday's MK on the topic of Max Holloway's future, where he says, I'm done at 145. I see myself at lightweight moving forward. Well, what about a third dance with Dustin Poirier? I'm starting to come together on the idea that this is the perfect fight to make. I love it, by the way, and it is somewhat rare in UFC history for a non-title bout to be a pay-per-view main event, right? You know, it's like Rashad versus Rampage, no belt needed, just bad blood, right? We saw Rampage rip down that door on Tough. You know what I mean? I love it when you get fights that are good enough like that. And to be in reality, BMF fights are sort of exactly that. The BMF belt just kind of being a ceremonial thing. But these two exemplify that. And in this case, you could put the BMF title, and you should, on the line, because not only did Dustin fight for it, losing by head kick to Justin Gaethje in Salt Lake City, then Max comes back, beats Justin at 300. So even though Max just lost at the 145, him moving up to lightweight is so interesting in so many ways. The potential for all new, fresh matchups, yet hey, BC, aren't you trying to have me run back a trilogy here of a fight Max already lost twice? Yes. In fact, I am. Because I just happen to think that is the best sort of not debuting matchup for here at Max at 145. He just fought Gaethje there for the BMF. He had previously rematched with Poirier in 2019 on the greatest main event, co-main event combo ever there in Atlanta at 236. But the idea of him going full-time to 155, allowing his body to build up, and being 32, turning 33 soon, with a lot of mileage, yes, but it's still Max with a decent amount left in the tank. Is this the perfect fight for Poirier's retirement? Yes, it is. It is perfect. It's very rare that you would see me or really anyone try to push for a trilogy in a series where somebody lost the first two. Sometimes there'll be a draw, or there'll be a decision that, you know, we don't agree with. So it's like, okay, yeah, we got to keep that series going. But I just think those first two fights were so different at different times in so many ways. They fought in 2012 when Max was basically still in high school making his UFC debut, and he loses to Poirier. And of course, they rematch in an absolute war. Well, Alan W. just sliding in like, hold on, BC, press pause on your life, because I need me some Reggie Jacks, and I need to jump in and support the BC cause. Alan W., I'm not flipping you off, Alan. Alan W needs his own hand sign, right? No, this is for W, or no, that's already something too. Alan W is my man. So thank you, brother. Reggie Jackson. I could see him doing a Rampage style breakdown, because the thing that Reggie Jackson hates the most, Alan, is if you close a door on him. He hates closed doors, because there's a world to explore, and he doesn't want to be limited to the door. So he got accidentally pinned in this office recently when I was away on the road, and he tore up the carpet underneath the door. See, Reggie can open any door in the house, even ones that have traditional, setups there. He can't pull it open. He can push it open. He pushes open this door with ease, but then he can't get out. Then he starts tearing things up. That's the thing about Reggie and his unpredictability. I mean, it's incredible the relationship we have, that he picked me to be his person, right? When it's time to stop being a maniac and it's time to be all sweet, he picks me. But we're also at odds on the regular. And if you don't give Reggie the attention he wants in that moment, his first move is to break something that you care about and to try to get your attention. So it's wild right there. Thank you, Alan. Back to we're gonna see some Reggie soon, believe me. This just makes so much sense. And it's like, I did make the same case because I wanted to see Rose and Joanna 3 at one point when they were both later in their runs. And even though we saw what we saw in those first two fights and learned so much, and maybe I was making the same advocation, if that's even a word in this case, for Rose to have a Whaley trilogy under those same circumstances, all of that would have been for the title. And I think they really could have presented that as the battle for being the greatest strawweight, not only of all time, but in my heart in so many ways. But let's not talk about that anymore. These two fights, 2012, 2019, for the interim title at lightweight, which Max fought his balls off, but didn't have the firepower to come over the top and win. They were so different in times and stakes and meanings of where they are in their careers, to sort of have us be under the structure that we are now, that the great All-American action hero, Dustin Poirier, is going to give us potentially one more dance on the way out. The last dance, Michael Jordan. it would be an honor to see him and Max go do that. The BMF title could be at stake. And I think it's something I teased on Monday's MK. This might be the greatest battle we would potentially ever seen of extreme babyface versus extreme babyface against one another atop a pay-per-view. Okay, they already headlined a pay-per-view against one another in 2019, but I think their own legends, auras, stories, popularity in those ensuing years have only doubled and tripled in so many ways. So you do have that potential to put two of the most likable fighters in the history of the sport, both renowned for their all action tendencies and the way that they operate and carry themselves. They also respect the hell out of each other. It's just the same rare in pro wrestling. It's why the Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior WrestleMania 6 main event in 1990 in the Sky Dome in Toronto was so unique and is so rarely reproduced in that type of matchup, where it's extreme. I know that's pro wrestling, but it's extreme lead babyface, the biggest babyface of all time at that point, Hulk Hogan, against the new lead babyface on the block. And and you have to contest those differently. Why am I making that comparison? I don't know why, because it doesn't really make a ton of sense in this case, because this is real fighting. But it is that unique part of that build where it's like, I don't even know who I would want to win. I would, though, greatly believe in Max's chances in this one much more than the other two, without question, which is the reason why you can make this push for this fight and why it matters. Max still has something left. Dustin does too, but I think he poured out a lot of that left to have that opportunity against Islam and to push past the limits of what we thought were possible for him at that point in his career and make that a fun fight, at times a close fight, and actually damage Islam to a certain degree. Respect for Dustin in that regard. I want to see him go out in a fight that matters. Not a last-minute fight. I know he just threw his hat in the ring. We are under today. I got fooled badly by another one of those fake breaking news UFC accounts that's like, oh my God, and I think you all did too, right? Oh my God, Chandler versus Charles Oliveira is on the rocks for 309 next weekend. And you're like, oh my God, I already really don't love that main event. Now we're going to lose that co-main. Turns out it was apparently just fake news, but you saw Dustin slide right in with the Twitter fingers, the X fingers, the BCX fingers, and just be like, yeah, I'm in. I'll take that. I don't want that. I want this. I want Dustin Max 3. I want a BMF on the line, pay-per-view main event, all action. Let's just enjoy ourselves. Sometimes you got to press pause and have a video game fight. And this is a fun video game fight. And it's why I always supported the BMF, because it's so anti to what the UFC is normally about. It is a pro wrestling title, but it makes normal non-title fights that don't have true storylines or meaning have a lot more meaning. What do we got over here from Icarus? He says, if Max loses versus Poirier, does Max also retire? It would kind of kill his chances of a run at the 155 belt. See, that's an interesting question, and maybe something I'm not factoring in. Do I think Max would retire if he lost? No, not unless, by the way, he got knocked out cold, because that'd be back-to-back knockouts, and now you'd really start to talk about the accrued damage. And even at that point, I don't know. I don't want to see Max linger and take unnecessary amounts of punishment. I don't want to see him get to that point where the chin is gone for good, Liddell style, where it just like, it doesn't matter the matchup. If he gets hit clean, it might be over. Garbrandt had a run like that where we thought that, right? Where it's just like, damn, he might be in that mode already. It would be damaging 2 in a row. But it's also sort of this, it would be a special, unique, I mean, it would be a BMF title fight, but it would also be so special and unique with Dustin going off that I don't know, short of getting knocked out cold, if it would kill Max. Would it instantly halt and ruin the ideas of him fast tracking to a lightweight title shot? Without question. But I also like this matchup for the flip side of that. The idea that if we count that lightweight knockout win of Justin Gaethje at UFC 300, at a point where Gaethje was coming off the head kick win over Poirier and his stock was refurbished, we have to count that. You don't just stop everything because he just lost that featherweight to Poirier. You count that. Well, if you put that up as a recent win and you put Poirier on top of there, everything I said on Monday's MK, I think is true. I think Max would get that opportunity to cut the line at 155 and potentially get that next shot. I mean, those are two great elite names, and to beat those guys in succession and the division like that, if that's how it went down, then that would be a creative, non-overly stupid way to get him into a title shot. And I say stupid because we've seen before the idea of star power arriving in the division. Former ex-champion moves up in weight or moves down in weight. It's going to be a short path to a title because it's such a bankable instant fight to make, to bring in the pre-established name, sub him into the B-side role against your current champion and just have fun with that. But if Max beat Poirier after what he did to Gaethje, who's got two better wins than that at the time in succession that would demand a shot above him? And then you add in his star power. So I like it a lot, but you know, lazy bed. Yeah, I mean, it's rough to see that with Garbrandt. It's also been rough to see the run he's been on since the Dominic Cruz fight, to be very fair. I hope he's okay. We don't know. The thing is, we don't seem to be getting the updated, like, what happened to Derek Lewis last week? Why do we not know that? Why do I not know that stuff? Are we not asking the right people, or is it just the reality of where we are in 2024, where traditional MMA media is like villainized and pushed over here? Stay over there because there's more Nelk boys that need your chair close to the cage. That's sort of where we're at, I guess. Maybe if I tune into a Nelk pod that I can find out that answers. I don't know. I mean, I did hear Dana White say that nobody watches news shows or reads media anymore. People only get their news from Joe Rogan. Well, Joseph Rogan may have just changed the election with one interview. I said we would do good vibes only. Okay, so let's keep that going. So that is topic number one. Maybe you hate that fight. Tell me. I just think it is the kind of unique, perfect fight with the Poirier retirement angle, with the potential of Max getting his first win in the series and going right into a lightweight title fight where it's a no-brainer. You're automatically going to sell out the arena. You're going to get people of all classes of either casual fandom, hardcore fandom, lapsed fandom to kind of take notice. Seems like an easy, understandable fight to make. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Vince, where are you going? See, Vince Ventura fancies himself as an MK, not hater, but an ombudsman, right? Somebody who's like, I may know more in my seat at home than BC and LT, and I'm going to tell him about it. And I don't disrespect that spirit. Okay, what do you got, Vince? Max weighed 174 walking to the cage when they fought 5 years ago. Dustin walked in at 171. How much more can Max possibly fill out? Well, it's not just so much about the weight on fight night as it is taking the time to move up in weight so that your body adapts, not for one night, but permanently, building the right muscle at the right time to build that base up, and then obviously making the cut the same way to make the weight. So I don't think, Vince, necessarily that changes what we're trying to say. Max seemingly did that, at least to a partial degree, for the Gaethje fight. Really seemed to reform his body at that point. I think Volk wasn't the champion at that point. Volk had lost to Poirier, which did open the door. Max still took that opportunity at 300, seemed to really, go with it more than he did in the second Poirier fight, where it was more like, hey, I'm on top. I'll take this chance for a title in a new division, an interim one. If he committed to that, that could change the way he is. That could bring more power. That could be, also not having that weight cut could just bring a short-term rejuvenation for Max in general. I think that's for anyone that still has something left to the tail end of their prime that decides to go up in weight. There's always going to be challenges of what moving up does in terms of bringing on the bigger fighters, but you're going to retain certain elements of quickness and speed. I want to see what full body 155 Max looks like on a regular basis. I don't think it's going to change much from the guy he is at 45 or the success he had, meaning not a knockout puncher, can certainly in his prime get you out of there with volume strikes. And even though he has two incredible one-punch knockouts, in his last 3 or 4 fights, that's not who he is, but he can certainly help his chances by bulking up the right way, sitting down on his punches more, which I think in aging Max is realizing he needs to do. And he tried that against Topuria. You saw the lead form. You saw more commitment to power shots rather than quick jabs and trying to be that. So I don't know. It is what it is. I appreciate your opinions just the same, but that's a fight that I'm into. That's a fight that I love. Let's keep it going here for my second topic. And it is that one championship 169 main event on Friday night. And, I am sort of in or out at any given point of one championship, meaning like there's times that they grab me and there's times that I watch the product and I'm like, this is a pretty damn great product, especially when it's MMA centric. And even though I give them respect for how they mix in the non-MMA stuff and make it, like we talked about with Rich Franklin on last Friday on MK, just more of a martial arts promotion, not necessarily MMA. I will say, though, even though I pop for the bigger ones of their non-MMA fights, Rod Tang, who will be in the co-main on Friday, I got to see him I can see him on ice skates, whatever you got for me. Some of the reason why I don't always love one is that I don't always want 2 or 3 grappling matches or Muay Thai or kickboxing matches, even if there's times that they're going to, they're going to take your attention and entertain you. I also think, they are hurting for in totality of viable names that would grab American MMA fans to care. But I take serious the hardcore notion of our serious MK fans who often say, that's the purest MMA to me. I love one, from the rule set to the presentation. There is a lot going on there and a lot to like. And this main event to me is like throwback to Pride Japan style of just not physical mismatches, but sort of like spectacles. And that's not a disrespectful shot at Umar Kane, aka Reug, who has put together at 32 years old here from Senegal, a decent run here. So he's 6-1 in MMA overall. He did sort of find his limit in 2021 when he got stopped by Grashenko, retired from that in the second round, and it wasn't a great look. But to come back with 3 straight wins, including against Buchecha, Marcus Almeida in his last fight, taking the 3-round decision in August of last year, it's not absurd given the lack of extreme depth in that division and the 3-fight win streak that you'd see him in this fight. But it still feels, and I don't say this in a negative way, I say this in a interesting kind of exciting way, it feels very much like we're taking the established MMA champion in Malykhin, who's from a one standpoint is as established as anyone they've had in history, considering he's a 3-division title holder. He's in theory everything we're always, or me, I'm always dreaming for somebody, whether it's McGregor, Pereira, to get that chance to do that, to become a 3-division champion in a major promotion. And I don't discount the fact that he did it in one. I just think you always have to add in the fact that due to their weight cutting rules and rehydration, that ultimately it's not him really winning the middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight championship, because you're always seemingly fighting a division higher than your weight class actually states because of that. Small sort of clarification right there, but like in reality, I don't think Malykhin's cutting down to 185 for any elite promotion. Can he win the middleweight title weighing in around 205? Yes, but still tremendous, it's a tremendous achievement is really what I'm trying to say. So he's the established champion, and Reug is that Bob Sapp-ish for 2024. If anyone's close to that, that's sort of, if things go his way, if plan A plays out perfectly, can Umar Kane win this fight? Yes, he can. But it certainly should be looked at as sort of up against it in a lot of ways in this regard, because of how established Malykhin is and experienced, and the wins he's put together of late, the 2 stoppage wins over Renier de Ridder, the sending Arjun Buller to hell the way he did. I mean, he is on a heck of a run right here in his own sort of short time atop it. But I want to see what this looks like between 2 very, very large gentlemen. I believe I have a piece of content I can show you here from their there we go. From their weigh-in early today. Shout out to Nicholas Atkin, who I used to work with at ESPN back in the day. He was our UK correspondent for Combat Sports, who I'd edit his stuff when I worked in Bristol, and he kind of like not interned, but he helped us out a lot. I know he's moved his life over there to the South Pacific and has done great work covering them, and took this video. Check out Malykhin and Reug in this face-off. So you see Malykhin in the left, dressed in all yellow. You see the mighty Umar Kane there in green. And it got a little touchy, a little feely, a little pushy between the two of them. And, it looks like a pro wrestling match given the ridiculous size of them. But it went from fun and games to a little serious, a little jousting, a little, pump fake and fainting right there. I'm into this. Okay. Now we got to separate them. Yeah, now we got to legitimately separate these guys. So this goes down Friday night on Prime Video. I believe it's 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'm in. They got me. I care. I'm fired up on the idea of, what would a mythical fight of Malykhin versus Ngannou look like? And can we make that, considering that these are the 2 leading non-UFC promotions in global MMA in many ways? I don't know, man. But I want to see this fight. And I think when you look at the quotes that we got out of the press conference this week, it is interesting. Malykhin said, Umar is very powerful. He has good power, African power, but does he have good balance? No, he's very, very slow, not good breathing, easy work, easy money. I see this guy is in danger. It's easy work. And then he called him slow-mo. And he said, I will never let this beautiful belt in front of me be next to Kane's face. And then, Reug said, I just feel he's not the real champion because of the way he won his belt. Beating the same guy twice doesn't make him a real champion. And obviously that's reference to Malykhin having knocked out Renier de Ridder at, middleweight and light, or let me get that right. Because this recent run from Malykhin. So Malykhin's 36 He didn't come out of nowhere, not a spring chicken, but 14-0 to this point. He's fresh off of that fight in March when he sent De Ridder to hell in round 3 to take the middleweight title. And then 2 fights earlier, it was the light heavyweight title when he knocked him out in the first round with just brutal punches. They've kind of won me over in this regard. I'm going to be into this. I'm going to be into Rod Tang, a couple other names on that undercard. You want to see Cade Rotolo as he continues his MMA crossover here into the lightweight division, Adriano Moraes. So, yeah, hey, you got me here. There's been times that I've been a little bit more critical, but I'm into this card. I'm into it. I'm fired up. And, as we get closer to taking your questions, we are a week out from 2 absolutely massive events. It is wild that they are back to back, so it's great that they're not head to head on the same night for sure. But it is wild considering that, hate it or love it, the underdog is on top. No, hate it or love it, Tyson versus Jake Paul has the opportunity to be the biggest fight of the year, the biggest fight in a while. I mean, when I talk to my editors, my bosses at CBS Sports, and we talk about like what fights did the most traffic in the last 5 years, or in my time here at CBS Sports, which began in March of 2017. And at that time, they were looking to really expand their combat coverage and ahead of the launch of CBS Sports HQ. So my hiring at that time was a big part of that. And you may be surprised to hear that Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones back from 2020, shattered all of our content records for clicks and engagement and all of that. So you're putting that on Netflix. So, up front, it's got this opportunity to not break pay-per-view records because it's not on pay-per-view, but to just sort of break modern watching records of how many people can they literally get across this globe to tune in live to this event. Yet that's on a Friday night, randomly enough. And it's one night before John Jones comes back after 18 months against Stipe Miocic, who's coming back after about 4 years. But obviously we know of the historic significance and how important this Jones-Miocic fight is. It's just random and wild to me that these 2 massive events not bookending, but really putting the tent pole down at the end of this year. Obviously we still have Usyk Fury 2, December 21st, which is bigger than both of them, in my opinion, in terms of what really matters here, but not going to be as big probably as either commercially. But, this is as big, these 2 events, and they're back-to-back nights. Is that good? Is that exciting? At least they're not head-to-head. It's going to make for a wild and busy week next week from the standpoint of journalism and writing and video and setting all this stuff up. But it's coming on. We've talked about on Monday about all the best case and worst case scenarios. I just hope both teams are happy and play really well. So I just hope both fights produce non-bullshit. That's the best case scenario, because I do still have a lot of fears about the potential bullshit of Tyson-Paul. It used to be about my fears for Tyson getting hurt, and now it's completely about my fears that this is a stupid sparring match that is a waste of our time. I hope it's different. It's a lot of potential for it to be different. We'll see. And then, like everyone else, I really hope Stipe versus John is some surprise, exciting. I don't need fight of the year, but I do need to learn some things. I need to learn about John at heavyweight. I need to see him in the striking for a while, more than the 20-something seconds or whatever it took for him to take Cyril Gane down. And, I need Stipe to not lose early because he's super old. Is that a fair request for a 40-something-year-old man? I will be interviewing Stipe Miocic later this week, though. You can check that out on the BCX. So another exciting times ahead. It might be, if I can get Stipe to say some stuff. I've had... Oh, you hear that yell? That's the Reg. Alan, you ready for this? You in? Come here, buddy. Come on. I've had, a lot of time interviewing Stipe in person. A lot over the years. And they normally don't go well. He's a hell of a guy, but hopefully we can get something out of him here. But I just really hope that fight is not John subbing him in 2 minutes, right? And we're just like, man, we didn't learn anything. And then obviously there's that other element. Will John address, not Ngannou, that'd be our dream. Will he address Aspinall ultimately, right? Will that be? So this is Reggie Jackson. He's back at the ball. He's happy. We're doing good. No violence today, right? Just living our lives. I mean, can you guys hear him purr? I mean, Luke has said that ultimately he feels like, well, thank you so much, Alan, for jumping back in. Oscar has Clapback Thursdays, BC with D-Slap Wednesdays. Okay, here we go. That's something there, Alan W. You popped me with that one. Yeah. So the Reg is a hell of a guy. Yeah, thank you, that guy. And Luke has said, it's like being the third wheel on a date, hanging out with him and I. And, is the combat sports world ready for a combat sports host to make out with his cat during the entire ramble? That's really a question you guys are going to have to decide for yourselves. Now, it may not be full making out. It may get violent. That's how Reggie gets down. But hopefully, people have said, is that Reggie just hating you? Is he malicious? Is he a murderer? No. To Reggie, this is all love. You know what I mean? I don't know if he watched a lot of Basic Instinct growing up, but yeah, Alan W. I hear you. Please don't, Reg. But thank you. Can you chill? Can you hang out right here with me? Thanks. Reggie, big combat fan, loves October. We know this all the time. Yeah, the MVP. There he is, the MVP. This is actually the first cat in my life that I've owned, if that matters or makes any sense. Like, my family had cats. When I met my wife, she had cats. We acquired some cats together for the family. This is the first time where it's like, no, that's my cat. That's my guy. And, Reggie has, he's played that part well. He's played that role really good. So there it is. He's homeless. Yes, he is. Indeed. And thank you. Hawaii's own Telvin Kipapa coming in. I love Reggie like Stylebender loves his dog. Well, Telvin, not in that regard. You know what I'm saying? Not in that, we let those parts stay private, if you know what I'm saying. But, look at this. I mean, this is great. This is actually great. All right. It's time to open up the floodgates to let you people in, to get to hear your words, to hear your questions. The super chat is open. Thank you, as always, for the people. Alan W. jumping in already. You don't have to. That's not the only way to get your question read. But thank you for the support for me, for Reggie, and what are we saying here? We having any issues here, Mikey? Or are we good? We good on this regard? All right, here we go. Let's kick it off with Sohail. Sohail. You're going to have to tell me how to pronounce that, Sohail. And appreciate the donation there. I don't know what country or what, is that the equivalent of 35 cents? But, you didn't need to, and I appreciate you right there. So, BC, FYI, R199 might only buy 4 gas station hot dogs in the States. But in South Africa, you're talking about the South African financial fair there. I appreciate that. That's a hot dog and a happy ending. Wow. Okay. Babe Ruth, Sultan of Swat, give me a hot dog and a Hummer there. Just saying the king of Connecticut could be living like a true African king. Yeah. Luke always says that, I always say, Luke, why don't you just move to Colombia? You can live. Okay. That's a bite. That's unacceptable. Yeah. There you go. See, you don't give him the attention he wants. He'll get violent. All right. I don't know if John Jones is the same way, but yeah, there you go. He did block me on Instagram, though, not Reggie. The Boney did. Anthony sliding in. So yeah, I understand my money could go a lot further, especially in the gas stations of South Africa. Never visited, but hopefully when I get there, DDP and MMA Guru will be waiting for me on the tarmac. Why hasn't Prince Naseem a bigger star in the U.S.? Why wasn't? So it's an interesting question. I appreciate Anthony Sexanth. Is that your name or your ambition? I mean, what do we got here? Okay, Reggie, it wasn't that bad of a joke. Please, you can linger. Okay, I'll make it about you a little bit. All right, there you go. Yeah, see, you're back. You're back in my good graces. So here's the deal. Nas was a massive US star in the late 1990s. He was okay. Yeah, there you go. It was. So it's like we define now in a lot of ways Manny Pacquiao as being not one of the first, but in those early 2000s, sort of resurrecting the smaller weight classes. And, how unlikely was Manny Pacquiao's path to stardom considering, he started his career at like 108 pounds. And by the point that he's making it on HBO and he's in our lives, he's basically like 122, 126 in these small weight classes, yet was so exciting and all this stuff and just became that. Nas was a star in the same weight classes just, 5 to 7 years before. And he is responsible at a key time for bringing me back into boxing at a time when I was really with the illegal black box converter pay-per-view, the free pay-per-view cable box. I didn't have to tape the nickel down over the power button to see through the grainy lines. You could just plug it in and you get all the pay-per-views. But I was heavily leaning into heavyweight only because that 90s heavyweight era was, the second greatest heavyweight era in the sports history. You almost didn't need anything else. I'd get Sports Illustrated in the mail. I'd follow Roy Jones's fights. I'd usually read, features in there in the 90s about James Toney, Michael Carbajal, whoever, and I'd know what's going on. But I wouldn't go out of my way to search out those lower weight fights at that point. Now, that group that came in, that group of De La Hoya, Trinidad, Shane Mosley, and Fernando Vargas, who all operated in and around the 147, 154 area, they got my attention and they brought me back in. But a few years earlier, it was the rise of Prince Naseem Hamed, who just there was a certain point that he didn't take over American culture or American sports culture anywhere close to what, like, Tyson or Bo Jackson in the 80s, where they were just the singular star that brought people to their games in sports who wouldn't have watched normally. It wasn't anything like that. But in the US, it was definitely a grassroots thing where I remember being in college and there'd be a lot of people that I knew that were not boxing fans, but they were Naseem Hamed fans, and watching him at my friends' colleges and having these big sort of sit down, almost watch parties was a regular thing at that time. I used to go to Ed Dooling's college, Manhattan College over there in the Bronx. And there was a crew of fans that, you built your entertainment around. We're not going to go out to the bars until the Hamed fight. And they delivered. They were as entertaining as anything. I think the problem with Nas is it reached this lightning bolt of entertainment. I mean, when he goes in there and makes that U.S. debut at Madison Square Garden against Kevin Kelly in one of the greatest fights in the history of the sport, in which they knock each other down like 3 times, and Nas comes in on a magic carpet and takes like a 25 minutes to get from the walk to the ring. He's a star at that point. What's Alan W saying? Thank you, brother. This is for the Reggie Toy Fund, not your slapsticks and gas station cuisine fund, sir. Thank you, Alan, for telling me which account that money is going to go into. We do need to keep Reggie happier. You know what? It's always been said to me by my wife that, like, if you want Reggie to stop acting like a jerk, that play with him more. And when you do play with him regularly, he's satisfied. He's good. He'll break less things. But sometimes Reggie's just that animal that you just got to let be an animal. You know what I mean? You got to respect his limits and his and yes, I would like to invest Reggie's money in Nick Diaz's coin right away. I'd like to get a Nick Diaz cameo where he just sends back a blank video with no audio. That'd be fantastic. Oh, side note, before I get back and answer your Hamed question, I used to have a cameo, and when and it was great and it was fun, and I actually connected and met a lot of you donks through that, and I thought it was awesome. But once I launched this channel, I felt there was no need for it, so I deleted the app. And what I didn't realize until I got follow-up emails, where there was 2 requests in there that came after I deleted the app, but before I guess shut down my account. So apologies to whoever ordered those and did not get them. You got your refund, but I didn't mean to ghost you in that regard. Let me close. Hamed was a skyrocket when he made that US debut. It was suddenly about how far can he go? How big of a star could he beat anybody? Obviously, when he fights Marco Antonio Barrera, that was his moment, and he lost that fight. And to some people who hated Nas, it was like, see, he's a fraud. He's never the same. But I think what hurt Nas the most was that he retired soon after that and never returned. And he, and he's wouldn't be the first guy to have done that. In fact, in that same stretch, let's not forget, once Felix Trinidad suffered his first loss, and then he had that homecoming fight right after. He retired for a while. Didn't come back until the Roy Jones fight. Ricky Hatton, after not the first loss, but the second one to Pacquiao, which was a violent, absurd knockout, he went away at a young age. Eventually, he did make a comeback. Some guys, it's just sort of like, we talk about retaining that aura of invincibility in combat sports. To some guys, it does matter. And to some guys, it matters so much, not the protection of it, but I think the fuel they get from knowing that everyone thinks I'm a little bit of a fraud. Everyone's coming after me, but as long as I keep winning these fights, I'm showing them. When you lose that, some guys just don't want to continue. And I understand and respect that. Nas was one of those guys. I don't think he was, fraud checked by Barrera. I mean, kind of, but not really. Barrera did figure out the right style to give him troubles and to be able to walk him down. And then obviously had the exclamation point of slamming Hamed's head into the turnbuckles, WWE style. But I think because Hamed went away so quickly after that, and in the States, he didn't maintain himself as a icon or celebrity or personality. I don't remember seeing Nas at fights regularly after he retired. Certainly not in the States. It wasn't like he was on, local US TV. He put on a lot of weight and seemed to enjoy, everything that he earned, and good for him in that regard. But it's weird to me. I mean, not just him, but it's weird to me how quickly we as in the combat sports departments do move on from people. And it's not purposely. We're seeing that in the UFC a lot lately. And some of that is just the regeneration system of what they're doing. They're creating so many new fans so quickly. and then sort of wearing those new fans out. But I think to the UFC's credit, they've really focused on that young group of fans. So many high school, college age people in this country are crazy into UFC in ways they were never before. But that regeneration of new fans is, I always feel like we have to educate about the past. And now it's not just, man, nobody really knows how great Randy Couture was because the UFC is not telling his story because of the, differences between them. And he's over there with PFL. We're almost going to get to the point soon where we're going to have to explain to people how great GSP was and how great Anderson Silva was. And we almost to some degree are with BJ Penn, right? Because some people that are of fandom right now maybe only remember the 8 consecutive losses to end his career. Or maybe we should say 10 if you count the Lava Shack brawls, but I didn't score those at home, so I'm not really sure. And then, but it's like, I was talking to Dan Raphael in the 20 questions the other day, and I'm just asking him questions based on that early 2000s amazing era, questions about De La Hoya and Trinidad and Mosley. Yet I'm thinking here, how many people watching were necessarily boxing fans back then? So it is crazy to me how quickly people die off or become lapsed and the new generation comes in and it's probably the same way when I became a fan and there's probably great guys, from the 70s that I never really gave or early 80s that I never really gave the time of day and maybe don't know about their careers on the level I should. But Nas being the shooting star who right when he seemed to, reach the top of the mountain and take over, he loses to Barrera and he's gone. That doesn't help it. But I do wish people realized, or people that didn't, and if you're from the UK, you already know already. But I wish people that didn't experience that can go back and do that. I mean, they can go back and rewatch fight by fight, but it was just such a meteoric rise and takeover of the sport that Naseem Hamed had to carve out his own chunk of celebrity within that. He was electric. I mean, God, he was great. He took that swagger of like a Deion Sanders or whatever and brought that to boxing and just made you want to see him get KO'd, but found a way to deliver the boom seemingly every time. And it was wild. Let's keep it going here. I can get, that's my one long rant for a while. Let's be quick here. What does that guy have? Appreciate you. BC, been going through it lately, and MK and Campbell's Rambles got me hanging in there. Thank you for saying that, because, sometimes it can feel like, what am I doing here? You know what I mean? I should probably be having dinner with the family. Why am I turning this microphone on for 2 hours? It's fun. I like building this channel. We're putting a little scratch in the pocket. It's great to see growths on something that I created. That's not lost on me. That part has become a joy, even in small incremental growths, to just feel like, man, that's something me and Mikey did together. We created this thing. And that part's great. But I do try to remind myself that the onus of me wanting to do this is exactly what that guy's saying. And I don't mean that guy generically. I mean, actually that guy. I do recognize good vibes only. We can share a smile. We can share an encouragement to each other. We can have a place where, yeah, we talk about the weird and wacky, but we encourage. And I get that, if you're given a platform, there's a responsibility to that. I want to use my platform responsible and remind everyone out there that, well, no matter where you're at, whether you've been through it, whether you're going through it, whether you're about to go through it again, whatever, we can get through this. All right. Like, stand back up. We're going to get through this. And if pausing the realities of one's life, and we all unscheduled go through it, something will happen to us or our family or whatever. There's going to be a challenge around every corner. You know what I'm saying? It's going to happen. If you choose this to pause the worries of your life and maybe laugh at a stupid joke or watch a cat bite me on the face or maybe catch a bootleg Tony Robbins encouragement from me, that really is what it's all about. So thanks for the donations. Thanks for the clicks and all that. And maybe this channel one day is awesome and is a thing. I don't know. If it's not, and it's just a weird club for us to hang out and do this right here, and me to put on this fantastic hat from Boston Scally that makes me look 15 years older than I am, but it's awesome, then it's awesome. So if you're going through it, that guy or anybody else out there, I've been through it before. I'm still going through it. All right. I was just at my therapist's couch yesterday, filling the time aggressively, but we got to get back up. We got to get out of our own way, and we got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Okay. All right. Down, but never out. The Rocky stuff is true. Okay. Please. This is John Paul Varese. John Paul Varese. Thank you for sliding in there. Appreciate you, Johnny. What are the 5 albums that had the biggest impact on me? Wow. I think think we did something early in MK like this. I remember making like a full screen over it. And I don't think we ranked at that time our 5 favorite albums. I think it was exactly what you're saying. Albums that impacted you or opened up your mind to new music, or, because sometimes that'll happen. One album can be the key to unlock a door that was previously locked to you because maybe you didn't like the artist or the genre, or you weren't ready for it, or you didn't think you would like it. But that there's the magic in when somebody recommends a song or an album and it clicks, maybe not right away, because the best albums never click right away. Yes, there are great accessible albums, the ones that can be both pop and rock at the same time and be easily accessible. Those are great. But so are the art project ones. So are the ones that make you really, OK Computer by Radiohead. Yes, that had a big impact on me because that was maybe the first album not the first one I ever bought that had such glowing reviews where upon first listen, I was like, 5 stars for what? What are we talking about? What am I missing? That's happened before. Even one of my favorite albums of all time, Exile on Main Street by the Rolling Stones. I can specifically remember buying that on CD in 1994. And then the first 5 listens be like, this is not great. My ears, my palate, my musical understanding weren't at the point where it needed to be. Eventually, I began to realize that is the Rolling Stones' greatest album and maybe a top 5 album of all time. Maybe, seriously, a top 5 album of all time. But sometimes you have to do the work. And, when you're talking about albums like OK Computer that I'll put on this list of 5 that impacted me, that was the first time that I'm like, okay, I'm 25 listens into this and I think I'm finally starting to get it. Or I'm 30 listens into this and oh, wow, that just, that's the good stuff. That's maybe that first example of that type of album that was so art project, melding aggressively so many genres like that, where I had to really work to unglue it. But when I did, oh my God, and I'm doing that today. Shout out to Corey Marlin, who hooked me up with a few that I was missing in my Radiohead collection. That was like, no, not later. You're going to listen to these right now. Good donk out there, Corey. And, and I've said this before, but when I'm unwrapping these, every single time it's a new experience. And, the In Rainbows by Radiohead, every single time I'm like, is this the greatest album they've ever done? And maybe that I've ever heard. It's whatever. Okay, back to your 5 that have changed my life quickly. I'll always put Sublime's 40 Ounces to Freedom on there. Because I used to have a rule. I used to respect so greatly how much certain great albums can unconsciously just infiltrate you and move you. And I knew, because we all get into a band and then wear them out. Like I wore the Beatles out so hardcore in high school and college that I literally took like 15 years off of listening to them at all. Zeppelin, all of that, same thing, right? The ad nausea of classic rock radio or your buddy's tape deck in the car. You heard the same album 5,000 times. Not all music is meant to be listened to 50 times. But I began to have this feeling like I need to preserve the way these albums make me feel. This is extreme rock nerdom. I'm not trying to like say I wasn't behind the Arby's dumpster taking whippets in 1996. Like we've all been places, but there was a point where I started to go, okay, if at that point I think Abbey Road is my favorite album of all time. I remember trying to sanction myself and be like, okay, I'm only going to listen to Abbey Road like on my birthday and on Christmas because it's such a gift. Why am I saying all this? 40 Ounces to Freedom by Sublime was the first album in that stretch for me where I was like, F the rules. I'm just going to keep playing this. Oh, I'm not going to play it one. I used to say, okay, I can only listen to an album once per day because I can't wear it out. I want to preserve it as long as it can. This album, I was like, I'm going to listen back to back to back 18 times today. And maybe it's because it's a double album of so many different genres at one time and the songs just flow into each other. And obviously Sublime had that magic where they were more than the sum of their parts and really weren't what was advertised or what you may have thought they were from hearing a single. You had to go in that album and just break it down. And it's 50 genres in one. So that is that one. I certainly can, because to me, those albums that have the impact on you, they change you. They change the way you listen. They open up, like I said, new lanes, new opportunities at bands. How about an album that really changed me? And this happened like 3 years ago. Murmur by REM, because I thought I was the biggest REM hater of all time and that they always sucked because my portal of entry was like shiny, happy people and losing my religion, not realizing at the time how brilliant the orchestration of music that Losing My Religion actually is as a single with the mandolin and the lyrics and all that. But, I'm just like, I don't need these weirdos. And I don't know how it happened, but it happened that I put on 1983's Murmur. And I'm just like, this is so much better than I ever thought this band could do. And the second album, by the way, is as good as the first. And I think those two almost need to be separated from the rest of their catalog, which is fantastic across the board. I've done the tour, but those first two had a youthful energy. And I think particularly what they did so well was the interplay between guitar and bass, how they were almost playing two completely different patterns and rhythms simultaneously that were just kind of keeping you off balance, but at the same time drawn in. And that opened my eyes to not just what that band could offer, but really that era, because I'd always been very sort of anti new wave or whatever, that not really realizing that that era is almost the groundwork for what became indie rock. Now, some say Ram by Paul McCartney is the first indie rock album in rock history. And I think if you go back and listen to that creative art project, you may agree. But the roots in what became 90s alternative rock, and really in particular, the subgenre of alt country in the late 90s, which blew me away with early Wilco, the Jayhawks, Whiskey Town, Ryan Adams, so much like that. That's all rooted in what was going on in 82, 83, 84, 85. And I always just passed that off as Euro new wave BS because I came up, I got MTV for the first time on May 1st, 1984, when we moved out of an apartment and got into a house and suddenly had all these channels. But there is something there in terms of, and then you get into like Let It Be by the Replacements. And I'm like, okay, I was completely wrong about this era of music altogether. So I'd certainly put Murmur on there. Yeah, I mean, I could keep going here, John Palvarese, but it's like, does the rest of the people in this club want me to? That's the real question. You know what I mean? Definitely. So we got to go on to the next topic. Let's keep it moving. I'm going to be quicker today. Okay. A Franco, a regular in these parts. A Franco. Thank you, brother. He says, great content with Dan Rayfield the other day. Thank you. Can we get your poetic love for boxing take of the 96 documentary, When We Were Kings and Rumble in the Jungle? Yeah, I think we can. Just not right now. I got to rewatch both. It's been a long time since I've seen those, but I'm willing to go to bat, and I'm willing to rewatch them. I'm willing to break it down if you're interested. They're tremendous. They're tremendous films. The behind the scenes stuff on the lead to the Rumble in the Jungle and all that. I mean, it's incredible. That's the thing about, has there ever been a boxing documentary that let you down? If there's ever been we had this boxing movie discussion last week at this time. And by the way, you're right. I did forget Diggstown. I did. It was an awesome boxing flick. I did in so many ways. Boxing just has this ability, and there's been some to just nail those genres so perfectly. Maybe because boxing is so absurd, yet so real and so honest, and all those things we love about it. I just recently rewatched that documentary about man, I gotta remember things more. Remember that documentary that came out in the early 2000s that followed Hasim Rahman's promoter, Cedric Kushner, as he failed to navigate Rahman from upsetting Lennox Lewis to getting a super big deal because they cut him out of the deal because he didn't update his paperwork as the agent. That film, which also shows a lot of behind the scenes corruption involving Don King, involving promoters that were caught on camera paying off the sanctioning bodies to get their fighters ranked. That's a hell of a documentary. I got to get the name. I got to remember the name and share that. But I got to get back on those and hit you back on that, A Franco. I'm really trying. I don't know if you care, A Franco, but I'm really trying to figure out still, what this channel should be. It's not just like, what do you guys want? It's also like, what do I want? But to some degree, it's what content is going to actually create clicks. But that's not really my focus. It's a bonus in that regard. But, me waxing without an editor poetic in long circles about the things I really love seems like a decent model for me to continue with this BCX. So I guess I'll figure it out along the way. What else we got here, Mikey? And thank you, A Franco, for chiming in just as well. Thank you, Alan W, for being the MVP here. I don't know. I love it. I love your passion. Are you enjoying the Chapter 2 remix in Fortnite? Alan W, thank you for asking, because not only am I, the remix of Chapter 2 has brought back my kids to aggressive Fortnite play, not just with each other, my two sons, both 16, in the room above me, but with their friend groups, which is always great to see. And maybe that's the true value in modern day video games that we didn't have back then in the 80s, 90s. We didn't have that ability to connect so easily and play. I mean, the fact that you can play Fortnite on separate system, somebody on a laptop, somebody on a phone, somebody on a computer, and you all be in the same damn game against one another while someone's on PlayStation and someone's on. I mean, it brings the world together. I mean, if I was smarter enough technology wise, we could probably figure out how to do a Fortnite, map with the 100 people in this chat right now and all talk trash to each other over headphones. I just can't figure that tech stuff out, but it's incredible how it brings it together. So is Chapter 2 remix great? So if you don't know, on Fortnite is like, they'll roll out a new season, they call it, and there'll be a map. And, every once in a while, every 3-4 months, they'll update the map or change something on it, and everybody gets excited and comes back to the game. But they're doing this new remix thing during the seasons where they're almost just pressing pause on the modern map, and for 2 or 3 weeks, bringing in the classics, the old maps that people love the most, but with some of the modern updates that have happened since then. Yeah, it's addicting as heck. It's amazing. I had gotten so stale on that last map, which had lasted forever, and even the small changes really didn't move me or really, my kids got bored. I got bored in that regard. I actually started to play Reload for the first time, which is one of their sub games on there. But the Chapter 2 remix is pure. We have vehicles back, and we have throwable weapons back. Now, this is extreme nerd talk, but this is an extreme nerd chat. So, you should just buckle up, stay in there, stay with me on that regard. I need vehicles to have fun. I need scope rifles. I need a few different things. But if I can throw, I like to play a distant game. I'll rush in the house and take you out too. But I like to play a strategic distant game where I can really take you down. And I think this aids it. It's brought back the love. I'm back. I don't need to do the reload crap. I don't need to do anything else. Give me ranked, no build. I can play build. I'm platinum 2 in build, okay? But no build, and you're going to have a good time with your boy BC, okay? Or maybe I'll have a good time with myself, Alan, okay? But yeah, I'm fired up. I'm into it. Hit me. What do we got here? Alan is who's the best. You must hate melee weapons and movement items like claws and jetpacks. So here's what I largely hate in Fortnite and argue all the time with my kids and get really upset. I hate anything superhero-ish, horror movie-ish, supernatural-ish. And I get that there's sides of the audience here, because they're not all washed dads like me, that want that prefer that. I like an old school manly game. Give me a weapon, you get yours. I like a vehicle to get around, because sometimes the map is too big to run around. Sometimes you can go the entire game and not even see anybody. But I like grenades. I like it simple. It reminds me of playing Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, all that stuff in the 2000s when I was much younger. BCA camper confirmed. What is that? That seems like a negative stereotype. Are you saying so there seemed to be a negative stereotype my kids told me against dads who play, because I think this is what you're saying with camper, that they essentially hide until the 100 people get down to low, and then they try to steal a cheap win. That's not my style. I never do that. When I say I play a long game, I mean a long game from distance, stalking people, really trying to I'm like Floyd Mayweather in the ring. I'm always trying to keep that defensive advantage. I don't want to go 50-50 head to head unless I run into you and I have to. But no, I don't camp, and I don't respect people that camp if camping means you're hiding until the end of the game to try to sneak and get a cheesy win. If I'm going to win, I better have 5 to 10 eliminations, kills on my ledger there. I'm going to get involved in it, but I'm going to play smart, okay? Because these kids are way faster than me. I mean, what are we talking about here? I'm 46 years old. These kids are way faster than me. I got to outthink them to stay in this game. Metal Face Gamer saying, let Brian know if he wants to figure it out. I am clearly the guy. When I'm off the road from driving, we can set up a live stream, but we all play together. Metal Face Gamer tends to believe that we can get in Campbell's Rambles Fortnite community. I mean, you guys won't see my social security number this way, right? I mean, we'll be peering into my window. We can connect via headset. This is pretty much as nerd as it gets, but keep me informed. Let's see if we can figure this out. Okay. I'm not a tech guy. I'm not as bad as Luke Thomas believes that I am, though, but I'm more of a you set up the tech, I'll provide the content. That's the relationship that I like to have right there. All right. And I don't respect campers. Okay. And if you're going to be an old guy and you're going to play, I'd respect you more if you just went kamikaze style and ran into buildings and just said, I'm here, let's fight. All right. Sohail, our South African friend, says, how does Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul play out? Does Mike go hard early for the KO and risk gassing out? Can Jake's defense hold up long enough to weather the storm? You're asking the key questions here about what will happen. Ultimately, Sohail, I don't know. I obviously felt like most when it was announced that there's a bad idea, Mike's going to get hurt. Then when it seemed like, forget the bad idea, we're doing this anyway, you might as well get in or be out. Also, during a stretch when I thought I was going to the fight and I almost did, and then we didn't, and the plans changed and it didn't. But under that regard, I said, okay, I'm going to buy into this. Maybe it could be in the weird and wacky, really fun. But like I said, lately, I'm just sort of like too afraid that it's going to be a stupid waste of our time in a sparring match. But it all ultimately depends upon how good Mike can be at 58. 4 years ago, he was sensational under the setting of a 8-round exhibition, 2-minute rounds against Roy Jones, where we were like, I'm not really sure what this is going to look like. And even though there was no like winner, I guess, under the way it was set up, Mike won the night. He looked fantastic. I don't know if he can be that same guy 4 years later. I don't know how long it can be. I don't know if Jake's just going to like take it easy early and jab from the outside under the guys here that this is a real fight. And when I say real, I don't mean the extreme of choreographed pro wrestling. I just mean that in between of like, we're not going to try to kill each other, but we're going to go out there and have fun and spar. And, you know, I don't want that. I don't want that at all. And, you know, they haven't said it's going to be that, but we have fears. But if it's a real fight here, to ask the question, Mike showed surprising stamina against Roy Jones in that old guy fight. Surprising stamina. I don't remember a time where it looked like he had to hold to save time or what have you. 2-minute rounds is acceptable and preferred for his age, in my opinion. I don't love the 14-ounce gloves. In fact, I hate them. Should it be 8 or 10-ounce gloves? Well, maybe not, considering Mike's age, because you can, you know, I can make a 1-hour argument as to why this is so ridiculous this is even happening. But 14 seems like the problem with 14 is it really could speed up the idea that this is some sloppy non-fight. It could get you there faster, right? If there's not as much of a threat for one punch, and if the gloves are kind of in the way, now they're not going to be, you know, celebrity boxing size. Remember when Fox had that celebrity boxing series in the early 2000s? We'd all sit on the couch and light up and get, you know, laugh at Horshack getting beat up by Vanilla Ice or Todd Bridges or something. It's not going to be that ridiculous, but it might be close. But to what you're saying, I think Jake's defense can hold up. The young legs. I think obviously the intrigue of this fight is to see for as long as Mike can be dangerous, again, whether that's a half round, a full round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, maybe 4 rounds. I don't know. As long as he can stay dangerous, Jake does have to watch, because Jake's not a superhero. He's the best crossover celebrity boxer. But Mike is just uniquely different. Like, very few people could pull this off. And I think we must remind ourselves, as I try to remind every time in front of a microphone, that 58-year-old Evander Holyfield tried the same thing back in the Triller heyday of the pandemic. And he got in great shape. And it was like one jab from Belfort and he was on skates and he was done. I don't think that affects Mike. I don't think we see that version of old man. But where does the old man catch up to him? I don't know. He could explode in with a combination and land a big hook. And I hope the first few rounds are him trying to do that and Jake trying to deal with that. But that could gas Mike out. I think Jake is going to be as safe as he has. I think Jake is going to play the role of Floyd Mayweather against Conor McGregor in this fight. That's what I feel like. That there may be some level of carrying, but if Mike tries to have a lot of success early, Jake might just do the high guard. Now, the difference here is that Floyd was doing that against a novice. This is Mike Tyson. So you hope for your entertainment value that Mike's going to have old guy tricks, that Mike's going to toe the line of being dirty, that Mike's going to at some point turn back into, like he said in that quote tweet that we showed on MK this week, turn back into Iron Mike, angry, ruthless, destructive. Again, that could be super. There's a lot of ways this fight could be crazy entertaining, just as much as the flip side. But I mostly feel like whether it's planned, suggested, or it just happens that way, Jake carrying Mike will be a big part of this once that early threat. But can Mike retain any threat the rest of the way and load up with one big punch? Is Jake going to be cautious and distant for as long as he has to before piling on volume on an older Mike late? Or is Jake going to find an unscheduled early fight or flight moment where he does get either hit with the big one or the threat of the big one kind of shakes him, and then we're like, oh, it's a fight now? Does Jake get extra offensive early to just say, look, maybe the quickest way to end this threat is to just volumize knockdowns and get him out of here? I don't know. There's a few ways it can go, but it's hard to take the analysis of it seriously from a traditional boxing sense, because almost nothing, Reggie, please don't do that. Almost nothing about this fight is traditional in that regard, including Jake being the, not the A side commercially, but the A side from a competition standpoint, the favorite, the guy that most people believe. But Sohail, as we get closer, I'm sure all of our fears will get higher, but then we'll all tune in. And I just hope at the end of the day that they make all this worth it and that Mike doesn't get hurt. The question I think we have to ask ourselves, though, is would we take Mike getting, and I don't mean Mike getting hurt, like KO'd, flatlined, out cold, but would we sacrifice Mike getting hurt and Mike signing up for this? He knows what he's signing up for this to be a great fight or a great spectacle. Is there a reality where they both could trade knockdowns or something? There is, and that could be wild. And if something wild happens early, maybe all bets are off and maybe it does become a wild and crazy fight. We got to wait and see, but it's free as long as you have Netflix, and I think 250 million of us do. And I want to see, like everybody else, what crazy number can they come up with the amount of eyeballs that don't have to illegally stream this for the most part, but are going to watch this live. I don't actually I'm not like Luke where I'm intrigued on what this means for boxing in general. I just don't know what this might mean because this is not a real boxing match. The co-main is some of the fighters on this undercard are real, from Mario Barrios to Shushu Carrington, and Taylor Serrano too is everything. And the fact that they're doing that in that dome with this audience is so great for boxing. But I don't really know what this means for the future. If you told me you had a crystal ball and you told me that the UFC is going to be on Netflix in a year and maybe, major promoters going to slide over, then this could be the beginning. This could be. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Are you happy or mad? What's going on right now? Are you coming or going? All right. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with that. But we're going to get a lot more into that next week. I got fears, but those fears are going to drive a lot of eyeballs to it. Believe that. See, Reggie, he's scouting the ceiling because he just can't wait to climb up there and rip off those ceiling tiles. Aloha, hey, Telvin, way to be one of Hawaii's finest, right? It's like Kai Kameka and you and Governor BJ. Favorite New York Yankees player now or ever? So I really didn't watch baseball much this year until really the World Series, and I thought it was thrilling and incredible, and it almost reignited some. I've made the ongoing joke. I mean, the Mets got me out of baseball. Remember the last time they made the World Series and lost to the Royals? That was was that 2014? That was right around the time I was kind of done with baseball, and I was pretty done in those ensuing years. And really, the beginning of me being done is the Mets' fault with those back-to-back 2007 and 2008 collapses where they had that big lead and were going to make the playoffs and then choked it away both years in as painful a way as possible. The first year they did that, I went to that final regular season game where they had a chance to just win to get in, and then Tom Glavine, that turncoat, gave up 8 runs in the first inning. I never forgot that, Tom. And then they put men on base, the Mets, and couldn't get him in for the next 5 innings. I left early because my wife was pregnant. I remember listening on the radio on the way home. And if the Phillies had lost, they still could have got it in, and the Phillies won and they didn't get in. But the fact that the next year, the last game of the year when they choked again, was also the last game in Shea Stadium history. And they did that. They went on to do the ceremony serenading that as the rains opened up and poured down, and had Piazza and Seaver there right after the team just choked the horn for the second straight year and didn't make the playoffs on their own fault. That was tough to come back from. But maybe baseball anymore isn't just for people 60 and over. The World Series, with the sped up play, with the intensity, the classic matchup, and because I haven't been watching in a while, it felt like the advancements, the same physical advancements that make me not love the NBA for all the reasons I tell you each week. But the main reason I keep forgetting to tell you of why modern NBA isn't hooking me consistently, although I do watch the playoffs and the finals, it's the traveling. In which it's so stupidly ironic to say, Kelvin, hold your thought on the Yankees. It's so stupid to say because every generation, all they ever talked about, and like in the 90s, every dad in the 90s, if you came over your friend's house and was like, oh, the NBA's on set, let's watch it. He'd go, oh, what? You want to watch a bunch of rich guys travel? But there's a big difference between the traveling of 1994, which was usually Patrick Ewing taking an exaggerated additional half step of his 2 steps and going from like the 3-point line to the rim in 2 seconds, right? And then he missed that finger roll in 95 against the Pacers. A lot of people remember that in game 7. That traveling is one thing. What we do now, and now that they're teaching it on every level at camps with your kids' youth basketball team, this idea that it's legal to take 1 step and then then do a long jump 5 feet in the to the left, and then throw up 2 head fakes, and then pivot, and then take another additional step, and that's not traveling. Like, that's like the fact that I can like throw a head fake at the free throw line and then take a giant step back to the 3-point line and shoot it, and it's not a travel. What the hell happened here? Is this the Euro steps fault? How did we get from oh, look at these European guys, they do that extra, they do the same amount of steps, they just do them wider, to like, I need to be a world-class triple jumper so that I can get a rebound and then shoot a 3 within a second. I mean, this is just so stupid to me, right? Those same things that I feel like have made the NBA harder for old guys modern day to watch may have improved baseball. The physical advancements. It's a fun game, or at least it was in the World Series. I've been I've told you in the past, I started off a Yankee fan as the 1B to my Mets fandom, thinking as a young kid, we'll just support New York and everybody will get along, until interleague play happened. And then you found out who Yankees fans really were. But I came around on those old guy Yanks in 09 when they won it, because I love that old trope of seeing old athletes like go back one more time and get it done. And I didn't hate this Yankees team right now. I really didn't. It's like, I can't hate Judge. You can't. I can't. I mean, he's pretty damn cool, right? Except for when he's dropping the ball in the World Series and blowing the 5-run lead. But outside of that, those guys are pretty cool. I wouldn't say I have a favorite right now. I liked a lot of Yankees players through the years. It was hard at first when Darryl Strawberry went to the Yankees, but then to see him overcome cancer and be that playoff hero in so many years that he was, it was a softer blow. I went on to buy I don't know what happened to it. I went on to buy a Yankees Strawberry t-shirt jersey that meant a lot to me until I lost it. I lost it the same day that I bought the Baltimore Blows t-shirt at a Yankees Orioles game. Remember when they would sell in the parking lot that these bootleg shirts that said something awful about the other team? Those are great days. That's all I got for you, Telvin, which is a lot of nothing, right? A lot of circle talking, a lot of circle jerking. Hopefully it worked out for you and you found the ending. Tacoma Aroma coming in with the best name in this chat. I mean, if we were doing first team all ramble, I think Aroma's on that. Thank you, brother. What's your personal all-time NBA starting 5 and 1 reserve? So I think you're asking me on ability here, not favorites. So here we go. The point guard has to be Magic Johnson. Even with the advancements of point guards in recent years, the evolution of the lead guard, like lead guards today, like Steph Curry or Russell Westbrook. I mean, these guys are forces of nature physically and are skilled as hell. But despite the fact that I believe Steph Curry would have been Dana Barros in 1995, I will say that it's got to be Magic at the 1. It's got to be MJ at the 2. And I know I'm old school because I'm giving you the numbered positions because that's the NBA I love. Those two to me are inarguable. Like, you're not going to argue Stockton or Isaiah over Magic or even Steph Curry, to be very fair. I mean, like, I hope we talked about earlier in combat sports how, a decade or 2 decades later, inevitably people are going to forget. Y'all must have forgot. People are going to forget how good. Like, don't ever forget how great Roy Jones Jr. was. Don't ever forget that right now I cannot. If you wanted to do mythical matchup, BC, give me a middleweight all time that you'd favor over Roy Jones. Can't do it. Like, give me a 68er. Can't do it. Can't do it, right? So don't ever forget how great that guy was. And I think Magic's in that same way. 6'9" point guard, clutch as heck, doing borderline triple-double numbers at a time where nobody was. 42, 15, and 7 as a 20-year-old in Game 6 of the finals after Kareem gets hurt, starting at center. I mean, are you kidding me? Kareem gets old. So in 87, they're like, Magic, we need you to score more. So he's like, okay, I'm going to score 23 points a game. I'm also going to dish out 12 assists, grab 7 boards, win the MVP. I mean, so those two are a lock. All right. So here's the thing. I think the center position has to be, if we're going by traditional positions, I think the choice of all-time greatest center, whether we're doing this for one game, one series, or just the idea of forget that mythical thing, just who's the best. Obviously it has to be Russell, Chamberlain, or Abdul-Jabbar. And I've argued all three's place on here for many years because I do nerd stuff like this in my head endlessly. But I'm wondering if you'll allow me to pick not all-time Shaquille O'Neal, not most years Shaquille O'Neal, but if you would allow me to pick the Shaquille O'Neal from the year 2000, I don't think anybody's stopping that guy. Nobody is stopping that guy. I mean, you ever want to get really like kill time and have fun? Go on YouTube and search the 0001 or 02 finals and just watch Shaq just absolutely destroy people. I know everyone's gonna go, oh yeah, but he played against like Todd McCullough and stuff. Yeah, he also played against Dikembe Mutombo and Rick Smits and not clowns, not scrubs. If you're going to allow me to take the year 2000 Shaquille O'Neal, I'll put him above 71, 72 Abdul-Jabbar, or good Lord. It's like in reality, we should just say 1962 Wilt Chamberlain because he averaged 50 points a game and pulled down 27 rebounds, and they didn't keep blocks back then, but some people believe they've seen him block 20 shots in a game before. But there's 8 teams in the league in 62. And half the players are smoking cigarettes in the locker room at halftime and selling insurance in the offseason. And most guys that are 6'8" are fat and bald. You got to include him, though. 62 is the most ridiculous statistical year in NBA history. Not just the 50 a game from Wilt didn't win the MVP. Not just Oscar Robertson recording a triple-double didn't win the MVP. Not just Elgin Baylor, who was drafted into the war and could only fly in and play on weekends and averaged 38 a game in like 40-something games. Not that guy. Bill Russell won the MVP that year because the players voted on it. But that year statistically is ridiculous. All right. If you're going to give me 2000 Shaq in the pivot, I got Magic and Jordan. This is the hard question. What are you going to do with the forwards? And it's evolved and it's changed over years. I mean, I would have said Larry Bird forever, and I certainly could try to argue a spot for my favorite player of all time on this team because of what a crazy hybrid he was at a time where very few people could pass, shoot, and rebound that well in a 6'9" package. But Tim Duncan's done a lot of work over the years and won 5 titles. And that if I'm allowed to put him at the 4, knowing that he can help out at the 3, knowing that he can hit, still give you a little bit of an outside game, great team player, great defender, a little bit of a weirdo, it seems. But I won't hold that against him. I mean, do you hate me for putting Duncan at the 4? Or are you like, no, it's got to be Barkley. It's got to be 1993 Barkley. I don't know. I'm going to go with Duncan at the 4. And then I'm going to go with LeBron at the 3. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to take LeBron over Larry. And that's wild. And I understand that in that 5, I don't have a ton of buzzer-beating shooters. Game on the line, let this guy clear out and go one-on-one. But I got Michael Jordan, okay? You know what I mean? And I got Magic at the point guard. And I got, the ultimate glue guy in Tim Duncan. And, oh, by the way, I got Shaq in the middle. And then LeBron just gets to be team glue player in this and score third. Yeah, that put your team against mine. My team just won. Okay. I sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself. If you're out there, thank you. Thank you for staying with me. Let's keep it going here. All right. I think I answered 3 questions. It's an all-time low this week. Lazy Bed jumping in. One of my OGs. If I could frame the dollar bill that you paid for the first question you ever asked over my counter here. You want to go, Reg? I'll help you out. Hold on. There you go. Reggie's like, I've done enough time on your podcast. Would love to see Andy Foster on 20 questions. Happy 420. Wow. All right. Hey, smoke it if you got it, Lazy Bed. You're talking about Andy Foster, I believe, from the California State Athletic Commission, right? So that's interesting. I have asked you guys to pitch to me people that you want to see in 20 questions. Now that you kind of get a feel for what it is, it's going to be a bunch of alternatingly different and weird questions to keep the guest off balance. And I've largely done media friends for the most part. Reached out to a couple of people, haven't, still trying to chase those down, but I never thought about doing something like that with somebody in a role like that. I don't know. Would he give me that time? Would he be willing to? I'd be down for it. I don't know if he'd accept that though, but we'll build to that. We'll get there. We got to get Brokamoto in the chair soon. All right. Dave coming in. Thank you, Dave. You're not a tech guy. What are you, a numbers guy? Yeah. Wow. I haven't been on the Reddit in a while, but I can't wait to see the Schaub victory lap for Joseph Rogan after he just won the election for Trump. I mean, it's gonna be wild, right? Dave Sandino, another Dave. Thank you, Dave, for being a real one. Thank you. Just trying to buy my way onto Campbell Rambles' first team. Appreciate the content. I'm not trying to say you got to buy your way in there. I don't even know if I feel good about this. Okay. But I guess I'll take it. So maybe I'm a dirt hole, but you could be on the team just for showing up with a smile. So thank you. Thank you so much. Street 1234 popping in. You're popping in to say, what up, BC? Keep being a weirdo. Hey, look, thank you. And I will. And, I think we all got a little weirdo in us. Are we all willing to like talk it on a microphone in front of people? I don't know, but this is like who's the real BC? Is it that guy joking on MK? Are you that same guy with your family? No, I'm not. But this is probably the closest to the realist me. I'm showing you my nerd side. I'll show you mine well, please don't show me yours. Please don't. Okay. But apparently I'm going to keep showing you mine. So there you go. Thank you. Thank you, Street. I appreciate you. Let's keep the weirdness going from Crackman. Thanks, brother. If Loma retires, which seems to be on the table, by the way, right now, how great was he overall? How great in the Ukraine picture of the Usyks and Klitschko's? How special was the Lomachenko era? Great questions right here. So you're saying so it's still up in the air. And I think I just caught a little tidbit there of Todd DeBuff, the Bob Arum's son-in-law, high up with Top Rank, who just did a really good interview, by the way, with Ariel Helwani on his show. And, he just said the same thing that Bob Arum told Dan Rayfield, that people in Top Rank have told me. They don't know if Loma's coming back. It's up to him. Some say he was actually ready to retire a couple fights ago. And there's a rumor out there that maybe he only came back for the last fight to please his dad, who wanted him to. There's other people that are saying, no, he's just taking a break and, we'll see him back. I don't want to see him in unnecessary fights. I think he's at the point where he should be in Gervonta Tank Davis type fights. He should be not only getting the maximum pay-per-view value for himself, but he still plays a key role in these pound for pound title pictures around his weight classes of like, yeah, he's a little bit older, but if you beat him, that says, when Haney beat him, that said something. Even though I scored it for Loma, I don't think that fight is, it's disputed. I don't think it's corrupt or wrong. I just think all three judges gave Haney the benefit of the doubt, but Haney fought very well in that. But that fight constituted what this era of Loma should be. He's still a threat to win the undisputed title on the right night against anybody. But there's certain guys that haven't fully been tested that now's the time to find out while he's a little older and compromised, only if he wants to, though. How great was he? All-time freaking great. All-time great. Now, his career is a little bit different because he was an amateur for a long time, a two-time Olympic gold medalist, which is so rare, right? When he fought Rigondeaux, who also had that feat, it's what made that matchup special, even though, unfortunately, that matchup came too late because Loma had moved up 2 divisions, and that should have been booked earlier, where it would have made more sense closer to Rigo's weight, whatever. Even though I did pick Rigondeaux to win because I'm ride or die on Rigo, and he's breaking my heart so many times, as much as he's opened my heart. Like, that's why I have the poster of the Donaire Rigondeaux fight, April 13th. What was that, 2013, Radio City? Love that fight. To go from 2 Olympic gold medals to turning pro and saying, I only want to sign with the promoter that can get me a title in my pro debut is about as badass as ever. Bob Arum couldn't get him a title fight, but did get him a very tough fight, the type that pro debuters never make. And he won it and he looked great. He gets a title fight in his second fight. And he faces, all-time war hero Orlando Salido, the Mexican Arturo Gatti in many ways. And, everything's stacked against them. We're in Texas, Texas forever, Street. We got Lawrence Cole as referee, who basically is like, I'm not going to call any low blows in this fight. And Salido's like, great, because I'm going to punch Loma in the balls 55 times. And I thought the refereeing was horrible. Salido, who missed weight purposely, losing his title, but thinking that would give him an advantage, and it was true. That was a Loma who wasn't quite ready for that other side of pro boxing, that veteran, grungy, dirty style. And he got humbled to a degree, although I still think he won, and I thought he got screwed on the cards. But to see him bounce back from that loss, take it like a sportsman and like a man, and I say those things because we respect those things. And unfortunately, I don't think Loma took the Teo loss the same way. Loma made nothing but excuses about the Teo loss, and I didn't like that. But he's a competitor. You try to have grace. You try to give somebody the benefit of the doubt. He didn't have those excuses against Salido, and he could have. And what does he do his next fight? I don't need no tune-up. I want Gary Russell. I want Gary Russell for the title. And he outclassed him. And Gary doesn't get the credit he deserves in that fight for never stopping to try to win and taking a big punishment and trying to rally. But he got schooled by Loma. And to then get to a point where no one at 26 is willing to fight him at all anymore. None of the champions. He can't unify. He just wants to be undisputed champion. He can't do it. So he goes up to 130 and he fights who he can, but there's nobody there, but he's blowing these dudes away, but he's not lingering. He's like, no, I need the real competition. I got to move up to 35. So he's 2 divisions higher than he probably should be, always giving up the size advantage. That's why in some of those close fights, you can hit him and you can even drop him like Linares did at Madison Square Garden. But he starts the Lomachenko run while at lightweight, where he's just making one dude quit after another on their stool because they can't figure him out. He's embarrassing them. And the accumulation of punches, almost in a Pacquiao versus De La Hoya type manner, is starting to get them to realize the same thing Oscar did, that like, yeah, I'm going to get flatlined here if I don't tap out of this fight. And people like Nicholas Walters, he just straight up frustrated into like, I'm done. Leave me, just get away. I'm out of this. Incredible. He was all-time great. He was innovative in his training methods that people don't always realize, and the hand-eye coordination, or just the fact that his Papachenko, his dad, the legendary Ukrainian amateur coach, put him in traditional dance for 4 years as a youth and said, we're pausing your boxing training because I need you to get this footwork down. Like, holy cow. And he was so, he does not get the credit he deserves for fighting 2 divisions above his head and always looking to fight killers. And I don't think he got a raw deal in the Teo fight. He lost that fair and square. And I think it's his fault that he was unable to start his rally until too late. He started it just too late. And that's his fault. Because it's also a credit to Teo, who was on that night and at the peak of his powers. But the fact that Loma took that fight, the fact that Teo took that fight, to be fair, you got to give him that credit. The fact that Loma was always looking to take those type of fights, and that run through Linares, through that version of Pedraza was tough as shit. I mean, I hate it when people try to play he's just some great white hope guy and all you journalists love him and you overrate him, when in reality he didn't do this or he's not this or he's not that. No, he's all that and then some. You missed it. Okay. I hope people don't really miss how great he actually was and how unique that career was with the 2 gold medals and all that. In that picture, I don't think he's going to trump ultimately what Usyk has done, undisputed at cruiserweight and heavyweight, and has a chance to walk away undefeated, having gone through everybody that he could. That's insane. That's at heavyweight. That's at the more premier divisions. And Usyk was a gold medalist on top of that. So he's there. The Klitschko's are interesting too. The thing about Vlad's legacy is that's so incredible are those title defenses. And, they came in a dead ball era at heavyweight, the deadest of dead balls. Everybody had dead balls in that era. But that dude still went out there fight after fight and delivered it and maintained it and was consistent. So he's got the second most title defenses in heavyweight history behind Joe Louis, or the third, whatever that is, behind, Holmes and Lewis. And his brother, despite the abbreviated career, but did have that great comeback, might actually be better than him. So it's hard to say in greatness. Am I going to put Loma ahead of one of them, 2 of them, none at all? I mean, we're really, it's hard. Boxing is hard. Boxing is the hardest sport, in my opinion, to do these type of comparisons because of how different the eras are and the evolution of the game and how little access we have to key footage of some people in key areas. But this was if he's done now, this was an incredible career. And I feel like he almost started a new era of aura where guys are more willing to do exactly what he did. Like, I feel like Inoue has taken the spirit of what Loma did when he turned pro and so quickly wanted to become a champion, and then a 2-division champion, then a unified champion, then an undisputed champion. I feel like you're seeing that now from Inoue, and you saw that when he fought for his first world title in like his 4th or 5th fight, then moved up a weight 3 fights later and fought for another title, then moved up a weight. Like, we're seeing that. I think it's spread over to this generation that I can't stop talking up that fact that they all want that smoke right now. We got Keyshawn Davis on Friday night. And Top Rank said, we want you to fight old ass Nicholas Walters. And Keyshawn's like, no, I'm fighting this dude, 29-1, Gustavo Lemos. And I'm calling out Tank Davis on top of it. Like that, like these, like, I love what is going on right now. Really, I think we just need, and a lot's going to happen in the next 6 months, but we just need boxing to get its ish together in terms of on a broadcast organizational sense, and figure out who's coming, who's going. Like, what is Turkey doing next year? Is Dana involved or is he not? What is happening? Is Turkey's thing going to be on DAZN, or is it going to be on many networks or his own network? Like, what is that about? Where's Top Rank going when their ESPN deal is up next summer? Are they staying? Are they going? What kind of year is PBC going to have? Are they going to have the money to have the dates for the amount of fighters that they have? And let's not overlook the move that DAZN just made. Dan Rayfield told me on this 20 questions I did with him that he considers that there's 5 major boxing promoters in the game, the big 5 right now. And he's probably right if you consider Matchroom Sport and Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren and Queensberry, PBC and Al Heyman, Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy Promotions, which not where they used to be, but still having a great year, by the way. And the classic, the OG Top Rank. That's probably right. DAZN now has 3 of them. DAZN had the Oscar and Eddie Hearn hookup. They built their model around Eddie Hearn, added Oscar along the way, and now you're taking Frank Warren, who was on ESPN Plus in the States, and you're bringing that to DAZN. What is that? How does that change things? So it is going to be interesting in a lot of ways to see how this all plays out, how that affects the fights that we do see and that we do, that we do get to see and all that and that. I don't know how I went from Lomachenko to that. Maybe you guys remember. I don't know, but maybe I should get out of this this circle that my head keeps taking me in. Brantendo 64, an MK guy. Yeah, shout out to you, brother. Love the hat, by the way. Very UK Plus friendly. Yes, I try to be friendly to the UK Plus because I do, as I said at that London live show, I do feel like I connect with all the boroughs of Manhattan over there in the UK. The Welsh adopted me. People remember I have a Scottish name. I'm a 8th Irish. The UK blokes seem to welcome me in there when I went there. He says, do we owe Ronda, Brantendo, thank you, brother, for getting my back here. Do we owe Ronda an apology considering the state of women's bantamweight today? What would be the apology, Brantendo? That her wins were more quality than we want to give her credit for. I mean, the reality is she fought in a bad bantamweight era too. She was just so exciting. I mean, yeah, I know Carmouche was there, Tate was there. It wasn't dead. It wasn't devoid. But, she wasn't fighting killers. They were scrambling to find her Alexa Davis's and Betch Koheia's. You know what I mean? But is it fair to Ronda how quickly, once that division took off post her and Amanda Nunes took the belt from Misha, and after Holly originally beat Ronda, and suddenly that division's deep and the women's game took off because in 2014 we got strawweight, and that's instantly very competitive and elite. Were we too quick to suddenly go, hey, Ronda was fun and that was great, but she beat Tomato Can, she's got a Hoist Gracie legacy? Which was an insult to say at the time, even though we're not insulting Hoist. We're just saying, I'll give you the pioneer stamp, but I won't give you anything else. Was that a direct retaliatory action to how she treated the media? Maybe. But I also think she had it coming in some of the ways that the media treated her, in her actions, in some ways, how she shut down leading into the Nunes fight and then afterwards. Now that it softens the blow when you find out that, losing that aura of invincibility led her to suicidal thoughts. I'm not dunking on her in that lane, talking to us, who cares in the long run? But It's an interesting thought. Bantamweight sucks so bad right now. I hate to say it. It does. The best thing we got going is Kayla Harrison, and she's completely, compromising herself, although she's doing a good job doing it, but really going through the physical ringer to get there. It's tough right now. Yeah. Yeah, I think we need to readjust some of our post-Nunes loss hatred for Ronda. I don't know. It's hard because she buries herself to some degree too. Her and Schaub, who were once a thing, they do have this ability to not be able to get out of their own way, and when speaking publicly in that regard. But I don't know. Shout out to Schaub. I hope I wanted to just sit to see who wins this next truck. We're gonna find out, right? Yeah. All right. There we go. Anyone need a Carhartt bundle? I got a big MK patch we can put on the front. Let's go back to Alan. Wow, in my DMs, in my life right now, Alan. McGregor versus Max to Bronx versus Max. I want Max to go. You want your boy Max to go out with a bag. He has earned his fight. Yeah. So I brought up that Conor fight, and people were killing me for saying that, just under the guise of like, can we stop talking about McGregor? Who, by the way, it seems to be locked up in that civil trial for rape, right? It seems to be day 2 today. I mean, you read the victim stuff. Damn. The accusations are rough. So it's gonna be interesting to see where that goes. Just a civil trial, though, not a criminal one. But I mean, Max is 365 days plus in a row, it seems, of living the Vince Neil lifestyle. But I still think that rematch with Max is, yeah, you're right. That is his ultimate cash fight. That's why I brought it up. Like, if Conor decides tomorrow that he's going to go through a real training camp and ditch the other stuff and actually go for it and take it seriously, that match has to be high up on the list. Max versus McGregor, the rematch, put the BMF on it. Yeah, sure. Do that. The Bronx Max rematch is interesting. Things have changed a lot between them. That could be, like, that's the fight I thought the Yair fight was going to be for Max. And by the way, the Yair fight with Max was awesome. That was a competitive, close action fight. Like, you go back in those first round, particularly, Max wasn't showing a lot of head movement there, and Yair was lighting him the F up with fight-ending strikes, and Max just shaking it off and coming forward. That fight was wild. I wonder if this rematch with Do Bronx could be that, but even better, even more crazy. I'm not against the idea of Max bagging this, meaning get the biggest pay-per-view possibilities, availabilities possible. Do that. Yes. Lean on your star, but he's going to make some fun fights for whatever he has left. There's no doubt about it. All right, let's circle the bowl here. What else we got going on? This is A. Franco coming back. Speaking of Cameo, thank you for the commentary. Oh, that was you. Yes. Talking to this man like I'm talking to this man on the bat. So this is my man Franco right here, who I think, what are you, a police officer, a fire officer? I don't mean to out you if you don't want me to, but you had a Battle of the Badges boxing match. You had a few of them, and you did purchase the Cameo, and I gave you the ridiculously over the top comedic play-by-play of it. Dude, this guy can box right here. This guy can absolutely box. Shout out all the way. I appreciate you helping out this Cameo, this here Patreon just as well. But yeah, that was one of the more fun cameos where people did ask me to do a couple weird things and I had to say no on Cameo, but I hope I didn't upset anybody. Crackman coming in with that foreign cashola. I appreciate that. Who will have a better career, Bam or Boots Ennis? So they're both fighting in that doubleheader Saturday night on DAZN in Philadelphia. I'm going to go Bam right now. And you're going to see a good discussion if you're down with the Inside the Box that Rafe and I do that's coming out tomorrow, where we had an interesting talk about Boots, 27 years old, being mandated to fight this absurdly unnecessary mandatory rematch with Karin Chukazin, who he beat 120-108 1 year ago on all 3 scorecards in a fight Karin refused to engage and just kept circling and made them both look bad. And I know this is just one fight. He's got to do this mandatory to keep his belt. But Boots is going to have to make a decision soon, in my opinion. Are you going to 54 full-time? Or are you staying at 147? What gives you the best chance to make big fights? Most of the big names at 54 seem to be closer to the PBC side of the line. But the Turkey Al-Sheikh setup there is interesting in terms of, I think that's the way Boots is going to have to go to get big fights. I could see it being not hard to make under the DAZN banner, a Virgil Ortiz Jr. fight, which would probably be Turkey related just the same. Virgil, unbeaten, moved up to 54, promoted by Golden Boy. Obviously, now Boots is with Eddie Hearn. At the very least, Eddie Hearn's doing the right moves here by bringing Boots to Philly. So at least the kid can fight in the hometown He's drawing a big crowd in the arenas and could just, that's the thing we used to say about Triple G when everybody was avoiding him. It's like the best thing you could do when you're being avoided is just stay as busy as possible and just be on everyone's radar constantly. And no matter who you have to face in mandatories, go in there and just whoop them and build up that talk that you're the most avoided and you're the man. I mean, it really has been a tough road for Boots because he's so good. He looks so amazing. But outside of those early tests with the likes of Lipinets and Dulorme, we haven't seen him against dudes with huge pulses. He wants to fight these guys, but it was hard. It was weird. When he was a Showtime guy, Steven Espinosa signed him to like an exclusive deal, but he wasn't a PBC guy. So people always, argue, did that hold him back from getting the big welterweight fights against some of those PBC stars that could have been the perfect sort of like test for him and to take that next step to the next level. He never got that. He could still get that. It just might have to come at 154 in the future because it seems to that's where the bigger names are going. Then again, if he stays at 47, how soon before these 140 stars, guys like Haney, guys like Ryan Garcia, like Teofimo, they're all eventually going up to 47. So he's got to figure out what's the best road for him based on everything that we still don't know about what next year looks like with boxing and who's going to work with who and all of that. But the crazy thing about Bam Rodriguez at age 24 is that he's already got like 4 times the resume that Boots has. And I mean, just what Bam has done in the last 2 years, moving up to 115, taking a title from Carlos Cuadras, beating another top contender, was it Israel Gonzalez by decision, and then going in there against Srisaket Sorrungvisai, the boss at the end of the 115 video game in this amazing super flyweight era, which is ending, and had the big 4 of Cuadras, Chocolatito, Estrada, and of course Srisaket Sorrungvisai, the Thailand rat-eaten MFer. And Bam went in there and stopped him. And then he moved down to 112 again and unified the titles, 1-2 fights, including schooling unbeaten Sonny Edwards, and then moves back up to 115, fights Estrada, the future Hall of Famer, and stops him in the 7th round. And even though he's taking a mandatory fight here against Pedro Guevara, because of the fact that Estrada had a mandatory rematch with him, said yes, then said no, and said, I'm moving up to 118. This is kind of like a stay busy showcase-ish fight. And by the way, even though Guevara's a decent fighter, Bam is a 20-1 favorite on DraftKings. So like he's expected to showcase and mop up. But we're talking about a super fight with him against Chocolatito maybe next. And he's talking aggressively, as he did on Morning Combat just a couple episodes. Or was it this week? And when did we talk to him? Last week? That he's not against fighting the monster Inoue, who's currently at 122. I asked Bam, what's your physical ceiling? He said, I can go to 126, maybe 130. Those two are going to meet, and it's going to be massive. So it's rare in Bam's position to be 24, but you're already in the top 10 pound for pound. Just as rare it is for him to be 24 and have all of those big name victories already against future Hall of Famers and legends, and now maybe has a chance against the 37-year-old Chocolatito to like really, really, really stamp home his name. And it's what's so crazy about Bam. And Boots is great. And I want to see him tested. I want to see everything he has. We're already seeing that from Bam, and he's getting better every fight. Like when I say those numbers about where he stands in CompuBox, that he's, second in plus minus, which is a crazy stat. Shakur is almost better. I forgot to add in that Bam, Jesse Rodriguez, is currently leading all of boxing in 4 major categories, including jab connect percentage, power punch connect percentage, overall punch connections, and I forgot what the 4th one was. Just like he's so efficient for a devastating power puncher. He models his footwork after Lomachenko. This guy's building a special career. It's funny that we're talking about him as maybe like the big one for Inoue down the road, and one of many big ones, because Inoue, we're building toward that Junto Nakatani showdown. He's from Japan, champion at 118, and is really starting to get pound for pound votes himself. That's probably going to be the next big Tokyo Dome like pay-per-view for Inoue, or maybe they do that but they wouldn't do that in Vegas. You'd have to do that in the Tokyo Dome. But it's Bam's going to go really, really far. It's going to be fun to see. It's great. And I hope Boots gets there, but he's got to find these matchups. They got to fight. He's too dangerous for these guys to try him. In the smaller weight classes, they don't care. They're all going to fight each other. This is Kyle Drees, thank you jumping in on there. Thank you. BC, currently drinking on a train into the city to go see David Gilmour at MSG. Are you freaking kidding me? Kyle Brook, who are we talking here? We'll report back and how hard this show rocks, dude. I've been thinking of, I don't think anybody would watch it, but I was just thinking about starting a music show on this here channel and just interview the donks we know when they go to awesome concerts. Because I follow a couple of you guys on Instagram once we connect a little bit, and like Josh, the Cubbies fan, who's like, yeah, I'm gonna go see Tom York solo tonight in Chicago. And then I think where'd you go next? You went to see Drive-By Truckers on the anniversary show the next night. So many people in this. Long Island Luke himself goes to some badass shows here. We got to break those down, but please get back to me on this Gilmour at MSG show. That sounds incredible. All right, Alan W is my guy right here. Can Haney now draw pay-per-views without fighting Raw Guy? That's your first question. Let me hit that one. Keep this up here. I gotta think about this. Yes, but not until he repairs the wrong of all the bad PR, a lot of it caused by himself, that is currently formed this cloud over him coming off of the Garcia loss and the lawsuit for battery and all that. He needs to repair that. The best way to repair that is to go directly back into a big money rematch, in my opinion, with Ryan Garcia, particularly for Garcia's first fight back. So if there's any advantage Haney can get from Garcia being inactive and traveling all over the world and partying, despite the fact that he's both blessed and highly favored, the shoes Dior, suits tailored. Those are just wild lyrics, by the way. The other way to fix that would be to make a different but equal statement. I don't know which fights are available to him at the moment. Haney's kind of a free agent at the moment, so I guess maybe all. But like, if you told me he got a Teofimo fight and he went in there and won that, right? Or even just going back in there against a champion. There was a rumor at some points that it was going to be Liam Paro. Now you're hearing that Haney wants Catterall. Catterall maybe not on the same level of those other names, but certainly has put himself in an elite spot. If he went in there and knocked out Catterall, and it's like, I know, like, I'm asking a non-puncher to become a knockout artist. I just think that for Haney's game, he's got to lean more into his punching power and be more of a threat for sure. In general, he's got to close up the defensive hole of the left hook without question from Ryan Garcia. But like, his future is at the higher weights where he's not going to be able to be the weight bully he was at 135 and maybe still is at 140 to some degree, as it is hell for him to make weight. He's almost purposely kind of like a bigger in the division weight bully. I'd like to see him figure out now who he's eventually going to be at 47, when he won't have a lot of those built-in advantages and is going to have to lean mostly on his skill, but is going to have to develop more power. You can't, teach power, but you can finely tune your game to add on to whatever you do have. He's got to make a statement, in my opinion. If he does, he's going to be a pay-per-view guy again, because he already was. Like, let's not shit on Haney completely. He went in there and beat Loma head-to-head in a pay-per-view. He took a huge contract to go fight Kambosos twice, whether we needed that second fight or not. Spoiler alert, nobody did. But like, he's played the right moves business-wise. He's taken on tough competition, but he's got a lot of repair to do, and I think he's got to do it fairly quick, because he sat out a while now from this Ryan fight, and the reputation's getting worse. He just needs to get back in there, but he's got to seek a certain level of name. I mean, like, Sabril Matias is coming back this week. Once the 140 boogeyman, who then lost to Liam Paro. He's got a homecoming fight on pay-per-view this Saturday in Puerto Rico. Like, that might be a guy who, like, that guy's got to win first and get back. But, like, call it a guy like that and try to knock that dude out. I think he needs to maybe people tell me I'm crazy, the slick boxer with softer hands. No, he needs, I think, to develop that threat of the punch again and develop a nasty streak in him. He's got to learn how to fight meaner and learn how to blend that skill with action. And he showed, like, it's lost on some of us, the heart he showed against Ryan Garcia. And I do think he deserves the fact that he worked himself back into that fight and was actually pretty close. We remember that he got dominated because of the knockdowns. Yes. But he worked himself back into that fight because Ryan was not fighting 3 minutes at a time and was certainly not doing the little things to win rounds. He was just flashing big power and getting big moments from that. The second part of your question, Alan, is can Haney be a real star if he loses to Rai Guy again? Yes, for all of the reasons that I said, but if he goes in and loses to Ryan again, it's going to be hard. There's going to be a longer road of repair because there's some level of being able to explain away, in my opinion, the loss to Ryan under the guise of, well, he missed weight on purpose and he was on some form of PEDs, even if it was just to help him try to make that weight. And, oh, by the way, like Haney's team kind of bungled the A side role in that and the responsibility, and they could have done more. He'll learn a lot from all that, but I think you can explain away some of that, except for if they do it again and there's no excuses now and both have the proper buildup and training camps they need and he loses again. Because if he loses again, it's not that he's going to be outboxed. It's going to be that he's outpunched, which means he couldn't repair that hole. And if he can't repair the hole of Ryan Garcia stepping in with that amazingly quick and pinpoint when he's on left hook, then this discussion's over anyway, right? Like, because you're not going to be able to beat elite guys. Everyone's going to pick up on this and go after that same thing. I think there's just like when McGregor ran back the Diaz rematch at welterweight and everybody was, saying, you don't need to do that, this or that. I remember writing that piece for ESPN.com that this has the potential to be a make or break fight in the rest of his career. And everybody's like, you crazy. So what if he loses twice to a legend like Nate Diaz at welterweight? But I was like, the run that he was on, the momentum that he had coming into 196 and lost by falling apart. There was an element, though, in that fight of explaining it away. Do you remember McGregor didn't put on the weight properly, was eating steaks all week, and he did dominate that first round until Nate broke the dam and it came out. And he looked bad doing it, Connor, tapping like that. But it was repairable, in my opinion, if you run it back directly. And he did. And to Connor's credit, and this is why, okay, it's not the best win of his career. The poster right here that you can't see, the Aldo McGregor one, is in reality the best win of Connor's career. But because that ended so quickly, and when that happens, when it's the first major punch that lands and 12 seconds in, the fight's over, there's a fluke element to it. There's no fluke in how he won the Nate Diaz rematch up at welterweight. He did it the hard way, and he did it in some ways the only way it would have made sense, by not just trying to go through Nate, but by overcoming areas where he would have lost in the past. Do you remember that stamina dump that he had around round 3 where you're like, oh, he's done now? He overcame all of that and gutted out an extremely violent action fight. To some degree, Haney's got to do that, in my opinion. He's got to either stop or drop Ryan or offensively stand up to him. And I think the quickest way to repair that, when it doubles as the biggest fight you can make for yourself, probably for your career. Like, let's be honest, this rematch may end up being the biggest fight of Devin Haney's career because it's so hot and everything that Ryan has done since then has only amplified it. I would say enough of setup fights for either of them. Run it back, Devin, because if you can't handle this under the same manner in which you lost the first fight where you ultimately imploded, then you're not going to handle anything. That's the best way to go back in and remind all of us of who you are. If you can go and do something like that, whether it's Ryan directly or, as I said, something equal to some degree, we're going to come back on his train and realize that skill for skill, this guy's absolutely incredible, but he's got to repair this hole from what happened here. Devin Tuck, big fan of you. Thank you for coming in here. Fantasy matchup in their prime, Yoel Romero versus Khamzat Chimaev. Interesting. Mostly because we've overly exaggerated Yoel's, not his wrestling pedigree, but how much he's actually used it. And that obviously became less and less. The older he got in the UFC, the more he fell in love with his boxing. And let's never forget that, what is it, his half-brother or step-brother or natural brother was Joan Pablo Hernandez, the former Cuban cruiserweight champion. So, like, Yoel could box. I mean, I still don't love that he was willing against Izzy to let it come down to an inactive fight that forced the judges to pick. I really don't like that because he almost did the Rigondeaux thing in that regard. But if we're talking prime Yoel, we're not even talking about that version. We're talking about earlier when he was just mauling through people with violent strikes. The Weidman win, that whole stretch, the Rockhold win, good Lord, against Khamzat. So at least Yoel's got enough of the wrestling pedigree where do I think Khamzat can get one of these 14-second takedowns like he did to Whitaker and turn that into a violent, loss? No. Yoel is too strong and too skilled in that background. But on the feet, prime Yoel, because Khamzat does get hit if he doesn't take you down and maul you. I don't know. The only thing is, Yoel, remember when we were calling fighters donks? Remember when we had that whole bit about, Ankle Alive's good, but he's kind of a donk. He makes big mistakes. Yoel is, I mean, calling him a donk would be rude and disrespectful. Maybe it's the Cuban artist combat side of him. A lot of Cuban boxers were like that. They want to win, but they want to win under their own terms and paint that beautiful picture and hope you interpret it the way that the judges should. Sometimes that Yoel had that to his detriment, just like sometimes he would be in fights where Tim Kennedy fight, where there'd be wackiness that would entail or ensue. He fought like a man though in both Whitaker fights, and I really think in that rematch he deserved the nod. I don't know if I'm alone in that regard. I don't think so. But it's hard to answer this question because we still don't know fully about Khamzat. But if I could take the very prime, most dangerous version of Yoel, I'm still going to pick him. How about that? Because I don't think he gets mauled on the ground by Khamzat, who somebody called on the phone earlier today. Unironically, they called him Hazmat. That was disrespectful. All right, we got any more? We got any more of these brain buzzers on the way out here? Gabe Diaz, thank you. I appreciate you, brother. Hey, BC, at a fight at 130, is Tank Davis versus the monster Inoue the best mythical matchup in boxing? Talent for talent, it might be. It might be. Tank would have to go back down to a weight that he hasn't been since the Leo Santa Cruz fight, which is like 4 years ago now. That fight was on Halloween night. But the criticism has been that Tank hasn't been overly willing to go up to 140 though on a regular basis either. So it's like if he's gonna stay in that sweet spot, then you got to be willing to wiggle a little bit for a super fight. Yeah, that Matt, and I certainly have a lot of doubts if that's going to happen because even though Inoue is at 122 right now, it's his fourth weight class. I don't know how much he could go up and consistently dominate. Win a title, yes. Be in big fights and be in it, yes. But that ceiling is going to come even for him. Is he waiting to move up to 126 for there to be that big suitor? Maybe. But now we're talking about 130 and talking about convincing Tank to come down. I just never thought that fight was possible. I see how actually close in reality they are in weight, where it is possible if they were the 1 and 2 stars pound for pound and pay-per-view wise, and you're just like, it's a no-brainer. I got to see Tank, who just turned 30 today, I believe. Happy birthday. I got to see him being busier, and I got to see him being more willing to do that for sure too there. Green Go OG22. Thank you. Just wanted to say you are awesome, bro. Hey, Green Go, you know what? You're pretty awesome too. I haven't seen your internet search history, so that could change my opinion. But thank you so much for getting my back. I appreciate that. NYM sliding in. BC, can't help but feel like you and Luke were too harsh on Carlos Prates. He might be the most exciting prospect at the moment. Card is dog shit, but he's a must-see. You're right. I think because of, and this is just me being a dick, this is where the MMA media can be. Some of the things Dana says we are. It's like when I see that main event, because I see Magny, who it's not like I dislike, but he's 37 and juggled wins and losses in his last 8 fights. So we know who he is. And you're like, that guy's the A side of a fight night main event. And yeah, maybe we unnecessarily took some of that shine off the reality of where Prates is. He's a finisher. He's predicted he's going to knock out Magny in the 3rd or 4th round in this fight. This is a good test for him in the 5-round setting against a durable guy who can wrestle in Magny. You're right. He's coming on. That's why this fight is happening. But by the way, this is why I say we're a dick. I shat on this fight because it fits that larger narrative of what are we doing at these fight nights and how low can we go? But then I interviewed Neil Magny for the first time ever early today, and I love the guy now. I'm like, it's a hardworking believer in himself, and it was an inspirational at sometimes to hear him talk. So maybe I'll stop being a dick. But then we actually look at the card and we're like, okay, so Cody Garbrandt's off of it. What do I got going on? Now, I had forgotten that the RDR debut here against Gerald Meerschaert is now your new co-main, and I do really like that fight. I don't hate Ricky Tercios at all or being on this card. And I'll pop for 115 legend Karolina Kowalkiewicz trying to continue on. Is she still on this improbable 5-fight win streak when she was coming off a 5-fight losing streak? Let's look at this. Okay, she lost her last fight to Lucindo. That ended a 4-fight win streak, which came exactly after a 5-fight losing streak. So KK's back against Denise Gomes. Yeah, this fight card sucks. Let's be fair about it, all right? Let's be very fair. But I am in on RDR. Let's see where we're going with that. Let's see which direction we're going. Devin says most overrated UFC middleweight champ ever? It's weird. Like knee jerk, I want to say Rockhold or Weidman. Yet if you do the all-time rankings of UFC middleweight champions based on like who their ability and their accomplishments, it's hard not to have Weidman right there at 2 or 3. You know, I think, okay, you're going to go Silva, the best of all time, maybe Izzy number 2, but who's the most overrated? Maybe like outside of the early first couple. I don't know, man. I'm not here to tell you that Weidman was overrated because when he was at his peak, the motor, the wrestling ability, striking was good. He was game. I mean, he's got good wins and he was, but maybe I'll just be that old guy on the front porch who will say, cool. Weidman was cool. It was fun to see, but I don't think he beat Silva twice. I think Silva lost to him twice. So maybe there's still part of me that looks at Weidman as overrated because of that. That's unfair. I'm not going to say I don't have faults. Okay. I'm not going to say that. I mean, Rockhold looks overrated when you look at how he gave away the Bisping fight by fighting so recklessly and after dominating Bisping 2 years earlier, and then how his career kind of fell apart after that. But I know Prime Rockhold was an absolute badass. I told you I had to pre-write that story while at UFC 199. The story was going to say after Rockhold defeats Bisping, and by the way, I never want to pre-write. I had a new editor at the time, and he was like, I think this is a great angle that you were telling me in the meeting. You should pre-write it. And I'm like, I never want to pre-write it because then the result will change. But I was like, you know, you could make a hipster argument that Rockhold should be pound for pound 1 based on, you know, and it's not really true. Jones was. But yeah, and then Rockhold gave that away to Bisping. But Prime Rockhold's a badass. And, you know, it's not his fault that 2013 Vitor with the Mohawk took that chunk out of him, but he bounced back good from that. It's just, it was short-lived in the end. Tu Chang says, Dillon Danis' lawyers dropped out due to non-payment. Danis was ordered to turn his phone in. Think Logan beats him worse in court than in the ring. So Tu Chang, shout out to you, brother. South Oregon bird in the house. Yeah, so this seems like he's going to get slammed in this lawsuit by Logan, right? I mean, yeah, I agree with you in that regard. I mean, Dillon Danis has it all coming. I hate what he's become. I hate the doormat laughingstock he's become. I mean, I'm glad he didn't get like sent to hell in that boxing match and tried for a little bit, but then ultimately kind of just fought negative, but tried at times. But man, there was a real short-lived cool factor with that guy. He was Conor's right-hand man, and when Conor was king, and you know, was that mysterious jiu-jitsu weapon. And what if he came to MMA? And even after the first 2 Bellator fights, I was like, this is going to be fun to see. Let's see this guy active. And no, let's see this guy in showing up at YouTube boxing matches and getting sucker punched in the driveway. I mean, that's really where it's gone. And where, yeah, he's probably going to get crushed in this lawsuit. I mean, it's all the footage is there of what they're trying to hit him for, right? Yeah, that's it. All right, what do we got? 1 or 2 more, or is that it? Is that it? Mikey, I haven't checked up on, you know. All right. Dennis Ramen coming in. Big, yeah, wow, shout out. Max loves ramen noodles. Max, thoughts on Quincy Jones? Yes, fan of his jazz years. Thank you for the question, and RIP to the music legend, TV legend, the legend of entertainment there, Quincy Jones. I really enjoyed that documentary that they came out with a couple years ago. I think his daughter Rashida was like a big force behind it, and it's interesting, just as all of his interviews in recent years have been, because his filter was gone. So he's just in Bob Arum mode, just telling stories he shouldn't and shitting on people. He obviously, what he's touched, from like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to Michael Jackson's Thriller, you know, and everywhere in between, his mark across entertainment is insane and eclectic and long standing. But yeah, I got into his jazz work a little bit, a couple, you know, post-pandemic, when I was really getting to vinyl and thus really falling into this genre I had never touched, never really knew existed, and never knew it was this awesome, which of course is, you know, prime 70s jazz fusion, mixing jazz with essentially rock elements and guitar. rock guitar in a sense in a lot of the cases. But I went back and heard Quincy's best work, and he was great as a band leader and fantastic. Absolutely. All those skills that he would use later on as a producer, you can certainly see come to full life. The problem is that his vinyl's way too. Herbie Hancock too, who I loved, one of my favorites, got a couple of his, but you find these used copies, they're just unnaturally expensive. It's like, I don't know about that. I'm a cheapskate, so I don't know about that. But yeah, Quincy, I hadn't known how great his music pedigree was, and even in the stuff that he put out across the board. There are a couple albums. I'm trying to think of what my favorite one is there that I downloaded and listened to a few times, but yeah, I can't get to it. All right, what else you got to me? What else you got? We're about to close up this shop. This store's about to close down, but thank you to everybody who's taking part. You got any zingers in here? You got any big ones? Let's go to Tacoma Aroma. Thank you so much. RSD coming back. I mean, it's on the agenda. It's on the wish list. It's on what we're planning to do. A big part of it. I hope soon, and I hope by first third of 2025 that we have a plan to get there. So, it's been a long road, and we haven't showed you every reason why, because we haven't, we shouldn't have showed you. There's a lot going on internally, but a lot of good stuff, and we're moving on and we're getting there. And going to second day a week was big. And I think at the turn of the new year, we're going to be in a better spot and have, we're building sponsorships, and we're doing the things to grow. Definitely a big step that we need, that has been talked about, is getting our own studio. We use Metal Arc Studio on Monday, and it's great, and we love it. And I like the way those, it's weird. Like, this isn't the year I wanted for MK, but I think once we bought into those Monday studio shows, and particularly of late, for whatever the reason is chemistry wise, I think Luke and I are bringing it of late. And I think we're back, and the energy's there and the passion's there. And, that studio isn't perfectly ideal for MK, but it also creates a new kind of version of what MK is on Mondays. And I like it. Just like I like being back on Fridays now, and it's loose and it's fun and it's great, whether I'm on the road or sitting right here. I think when we get consistent access to a new bomb shelter, it may even be in Jersey City again, who knows? When we get to there, that then opens up the door a lot wider, in my opinion. We're going to get the room service Diaries couch. We'll have the ability to do live companions if need be on a big event. We'll just have our own space where, like, I'll be honest, next weekend is about, back in the day, that would have been, with the fact that you got Tyson one night and a John Jones the next, that would have been the perfect setup shop in a studio, and we'll just bank nonstop content with the dock cameras rolling, and it'll be awesome. And we're going to get back to that, but we're still getting there, and as I've told you a million times, I had to come to terms with who we actually are now and our own limitations. We don't have the big, video on demand staff to be able, to put all the interviews on there and come up with these side things. And we're not getting paid for that either, to be fair. But, I don't know if all of that fully comes back, or if it even needs to some degree, because I've got this channel right now. Luke is back full time after his run with CBS ended, where he's doing a great job there. Maybe that's just what it is with this new reality. You can follow, you can come in BC on Wednesday, it's Luke on Thursday. Hey, Long Island Luke's got the main card minute, and I love it when the cross pollination of MKers go and check out his stylings, what him and Gaff are doing over there. But one of our major priorities for next year is to get that space. And if we do, we're going to get that couch. I don't actually know what happened. It's a funny, there was a time where Long Island Luke was asking if he could just put the couch in his apartment. So I don't actually know what happened to that couch. Is it still in the bomb shelter? Is there a bomb shelter anymore? Is there a Malka anymore? I don't know. A lot has gone down this year. It's been a weird year. Somebody might have that couch and the extended MK team. Everything we had there was perfect, but I got to realize, and this is a good life lesson, that, there's new seasons. Things become new. I can't hold on to MK of the past, but what's MK of the future going to look like? That's my new thing. Okay. I can't change it. I can't control it. So let me embrace what we got. We still got 2 days a week, and we got this side gig going on. You know what I mean? It's not that bad. Mikey, any more that you feel like I got to answer right now? Nope. All right. So we're going to close down shop. Appreciate it. I hope I got to all the questions. If I didn't get to your questions, and you paid us and supported the show, we appreciate you. I'll get to that We're going to do that again. I'll get back at you. We'll get to that again. Okay. MK Bang Bus 2025. Yes, we'll figure out this Fortnite thing, or maybe we won't. Maybe we'll all nerd out on our own there. But the couch, there is Long Island Luke on cue. It's gone, sad to say. Like, gone, like dumpster gone. Like, is it in the back room of that Taco Bell on the first floor? I don't know. Is it gonzy? Gone? Yeah, there may have been a dead hooker at some point on that couch. Not in our era of owning it, but it definitely had those vibes and those feels. But thank you to everybody for making this possible. Week to week, Wednesday to Wednesday, I don't know who's going to show up, right? Or if you'll care. But if you do, then we're building something here. We're building a little weird club where we talk about only 90s MMA and jazz fusion. But thank you so much. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the fights. There's some fun ones this weekend. Next week is a hell of a hoot. So follow us all on Morning Combat. We'll be back this Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, to set the stage for the weekend. Next week's shows, I'm sure, are going to be on fire across all of our solo channels. Support the BCX and the channel that we got going on. Interviews coming up with Neil Magny, Stipe Miocic. Check out my 20Q with Dan Raphael. And, just continue to be honest with me, and I'll be honest with you. Maybe some of this content isn't working and we got to rethink it, but I'll keep throwing that shit against the wall. And, you tell me, you pick out the corn, you tell me if it smells. All right. That's our relationship. That's where we are at. Thank you to Boston Scally for this fantastic headwear that makes me look older by the day. But I'm trying to get, here's the thing. I don't have a broadcasting opportunity. And I sometimes treat those opportunities as if I'm a fighter going into training camp, where it's like, okay, I'm taking care of myself health-wise. But then when the call comes in, it's like, I'm gonna get skinny for that fight, right? I need a call. Call me, okay? I need a fight. Let's go. I need to get skinny again, super skinny, okay? Let's get in shape. Let's raise our spirits. Let's take care of our head right here, okay? Only you can take that next step, all right? What happened, okay? Let's go. Let's get up. We gotta go. If you're going through hell, keep going. We got to get through this, okay? Together, all right? I hope your team won the election. I didn't have a team at the race there, but good vibes only to the rest of you. Thank you. Appreciate you. Shout out to Mikey, and we are out of here.